Okay, good evening. Today's session of Monroe Township Board of Education is now in session. I'd ask you all to please rise and join me in the pledge. Mr. Koloponowicz, I think you have the flag. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America,
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, we have a roll call.
Certainly. Mrs. Arminio,
here,
Chiarella, Mrs. DeMayo,
here,
Mrs. Koloponowicz,
here,
Mr. Nicotinsky,
Here.
Mr. Fleury,
I'm here.
Mr. Ryback,
Yeah.
Sizzle, Ms. Siegel,
You're muted, Rupa.
Just raise your hand.
Okay, I'm here.
She's here.
Now I hear you. Okay.
so noted, thank you. Mr. Capano,
Here,
and Mr. Resky.
Here.
Mr. Board President, you have quorum present this evening.
Thank you.
In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted August 21st, 2020 at all schools, the Home News Tribune, the Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Before we go on, I'd just like to say, I know that Mr. Chiarella is not well tonight. We wish him a speedy get well, get him back. Okay, we can move on to the approval of the minutes. I need a motion
Mr. President, I'm sorry,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but there's a lot of background noise of people shoveling papers. If you could have everybody put their mics on mute unless they're speaking, please.
Thank you, Andy. Could you put your shut your audios? Okay. So we'll move to the approval of the minutes. I need a motion to approve the Public Board of Education minutes of July 22nd, 2020.
So moved.
Okay, I have a second.
second,
Thank you. All those in
Mr.
favor?
Ryback,
Yes.
Mr. Ryback, I beg your pardon. That was Mrs. DeMayo on the first, and who seconded the motion?
Andy Pelori.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Again, all those in favor of approving the Board of Education minutes of July 22nd, could raise your hand. So
Aye.
aye,
aye, 1, 2, 3. I see 4. I don't know how many we have that approved. 5. Can you see that, Mike? I don't have everybody here.
Yes, sir. You could
6,
go to any opposed or abstentions.
Any abstentions or refusals?
Oppose.
Who was that, please?
The motion passes, Mr. Gorski?
It does, but somebody opposed it and I didn't get their name.
Did anyone oppose?
Nicotinsky.
Mr. Nicotinsky?
Oppose.
Mr. Nicotinsky opposed. Thank you.
I oppose as well.
And
Sorry,
then
Ms.
Mr. Arminio opposes. That's 2 opposed.
I also oppose.
Who's that,
Peter,
Peter?
what's your name?
Yes,
Who's that? Peter?
Mr.
Tufano
Tufano.
opposes.
Okay.
Opposes, Mr. President,
I'm having trouble.
Shut the audio
There's a lot of background noise.
noise. Mr. Feldman, can you maybe help with that?
Mrs. Arminio, I think you're logged into 2 devices.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting of July 20th.
So moved.
Who was that?
Jill.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Mr. Mayo, and who seconds it? Folks, I need a second to move. Come on, let's
Second.
move it along. All right,
Ms.
Ruben
Siegel.
seconds. All right, any discussion? I don't see any hands. Please call out if you have any discussion on this. Questions? All right, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Did you, Mike, you see everybody?
Yes.
Andy's hand? Okay, any opposed? Abstentions? We got one opposal?
Oppose.
Close.
I oppose also.
Mr. Tufano, Mr. Nicotinsky, anybody else opposed? Mich- Is that Michelle?
Hey, you guys,
Michelle's
ball-
on mute.
and I heard your ball was outside on your strike three. Brian told me. He had video of it.
Is Mr. Feldman, is this conversation that's not from the board here?
I apologize. We're all set.
All right, I'm sorry, Ms.
Mr.
Arminio, did you oppose the closed session meeting? I couldn't see you or hear you. There was conversation coming from outside.
She's on mute.
Michelle, can you take yourself off mute? Mr. Feldman, can you take Ms. Arminio off mute?
Arminio is off mute now, but she has two devices logged into the meeting, so I'm not sure if that's what's causing the background.
We're getting a lot of background noise. Yeah, can you shut one of the devices? And then I don't know how you voted on the closed session minutes.
Okay, because it sounds like that's me, and I'm trying to correct it. Am I still on too?
Yes.
Yes.
How can I shut? How's
Mr.
that
Feldman,
better?
can you? Yes, that's better. You're
Very
closed
good.
now.
Okay, Michelle, can you tell me how you voted on the closed session minutes?
I
Huh?
can't see it. Okay, I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. No to the closed session minutes.
Okay,
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Corsi, how did that vote come?
Yes, sir.
Did it pass? I don't know.
Yes, sir. Motion passed.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you. All right, now,
Mr. President, this is Andy Plory. Is there a discussion before we finalize the vote? I find it,
I asked,
I'm sorry?
I asked for discussion on that.
Why are some of the board members not voting yes on the board, on the meeting minutes? Is there
They did.
wrong information on the board meetings, or what was the cause though?
No, well, I did ask if there was discussion or questions. I believe that everybody voted, Mr. Gorski?
I
Yeah,
beg your pardon, I was muted. Everybody voted, motion passed. Now we're up to number 6.
All right, Mr. Pelori, I hope that answers your question. All right, now.
It doesn't answer Andy's question. Andy's trying to figure out why people voted no on minutes. Was there something wrong with the minutes, or did there something they didn't agree with in the minutes?
Well, they had an opportunity. I asked if there was any questions or comments, and there were none.
This is Michelle Arminio. I was having difficulty reaching the board when that was happening.
Okay.
However, in the past, I have suggested changes to the minutes and they've gone unanswered and dismissed. So I do have objection to the minutes in their content, but it doesn't seem to affect the outcome. So I'm just voting no, and I think we have a right to vote no.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to move on. Just keep it moving, please. All right, now I need a motion to pass the motion on the renegotiated contract for Dr. Albert for the 2024 employment contract for the superintendent.
Mr. Rybeck, President Rybeck, I have a procedural issue. Is this a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay, so there is no provision in the agenda for the public to speak on this matter in its entirety.
I'm going to have the public speak, Ms. Sumner.
However, it was not listed in the agenda. That's a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act. It should be noted, and the people who looked at the agenda might not have signed on because they didn't see a place where they could have discussed it. A public meeting, and it should be noticed that the public can speak to this. That's the whole point of a hearing.
Well,
Mr. Ryback, Mr.
yeah.
Ryback, number 6 on the agenda is titled Public Hearing, Renegotiated 2020-2024 Employment Contract for Superintendent of Schools. It was properly advertised and properly noted that it is a public hearing, similar to what we do with the budget.
Okay, I'm going to move on. I had enough.
I just would like my objection noted that there is no space in the agenda for the public to have known that they get to speak on this matter. It looks like only on number 6, there's nothing at the bottom or at the top that says the public will speak to this. It just says public hearing, and the public may be unaware of what they're allowed to do, because we've kept very strict circumstances on public forums. So the public, there may be a chilling effect from past rulings. And I think there's a violation of the public notice on this.
So noted.
You made your point. I want to move on. The public will have the opportunity to speak. Can I have somebody move this motion?
I move it.
Thank you. I have a second.
Second.
Andy Pelori, I second it.
All right, well,
I believe Ms.
Mr. Mayor
Siegel seconded
moved it,
first.
Ms.
Am I
Yeah,
correct?
Siegel seconded. Okay,
Thank you.
any discussion, comments from the board? And then what I'll do is, after the board has asked questions or comments, I'll open it up to the public and then move it back to the board for a vote. So anyone on the board have a question or comment?
This is Paul Rutsky. I'll make a couple of comments if I may.
Okay.
First, since I think I'm in a unique position here regarding superintendent search that we're doing in Jamesburg and previous searches that have gone on in Monroe. And I would want to say that seeing the effective job that Dr. Alvick has done in her first year, knowing what we're going through in Jamesburg, looking for a new superintendent because we did not extend a contract and we let a really good superintendent go for a few $1,000s a year, and shame on us. I would regret if we let that same mistake happen in Monroe. There's been a revolving door of superintendents over the last, I don't know, 6 to 10 years that I've seen. And I think lesson that I've learned firsthand is when you have a really good qualified superintendent in place, you lock them down, you extend their term, and you let them do their job. And that's what I'm looking to do here for Dr. Alvick.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Steve, this is Andy Pelori. Just picking up on what Paul is saying, even in the corporate world or any business for that matter, when you have a qualified individual who's doing a good job, you want to reward them. And having seen what has happened in our district over the past few years, lack of stability, lack of consistent leadership has really impacted our school district quite a bit. Providing that consistency and providing some stability to the leadership is extremely important. And that's one of the things that I ran my campaign last year, the year before when I ran for the Board of Ed. So I think providing this kind of leadership and consistency.
Well, Andy froze.
Mr.
Mr.
Pelori,
Phelps, can we get him back?
It may be his network, so we sort of just have to wait for him to rebuffer, and hopefully he comes back. It looks like I can see him now.
Can you guys hear me? My apologies. I don't know how far you heard. Mike, can you hear me?
You were talking about consistency. I think that was about the last part you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, having consistency and leadership is extremely important. And that's one of the reasons when I ran for Board of Ed, we talked about bringing that consistency and long-term leadership, and having Dory grow from the grassroots up within our district and familiar with our district's challenges is extremely important to make sure that she's grounded in our township and in our school district to continue her leadership the way she's been progressing. And COVID is a classic example of how she's been managing just about every single resident who's sending kids to schools, and those who do not send kids to school seem to have an opinion on what we should do. And she's navigating through those turbulent waters very gracefully and with a lot of patience. And that itself is is a testament to her dedication and leadership. So I strongly support it.
Anyone else?
Mr. Ryback, it's Rupa.
Sure. Siegel?
Just a couple things to add on to Paul and Andy. Just watching Dr. Alvick all these years, working with her, being a parent in her building, just seeing all the things that she's brought to our district. You know, just to share a couple of things, she's implemented the whole child approach through our learning with the social emotional learning, our professional development that we have for our staff. I remember hearing through curriculum meetings that we are model for other school districts to follow. And just the tremendous amount of work and how much has been built in our unified program, which was recognized years ago by Special Olympics. So it's just amazing to see some of these programs that she's been working for years to bring to our school district. You know, it didn't just happen in a year, it's building, and education is a slow process and it takes a while to build. And I think one of the other really great things, I don't know if others know, but most of our sitting building principals were all mentored by Dr. Alvick. They were all vice principals. So it's really nice to see our district and our staff together and to see how strong our administration is right now, because they've all been working together for years.
Anyone else?
Mr. Ryback, it's Kathy.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you for calling out because I can't see everybody. So I appreciate you calling out your names. Thank you.
I to add on. We had members of the public come to us during board meetings and ask us when we're going to get a superintendent that will last more than a couple of years. We have had a revolving door of superintendents over the past 10 years. And I think Dory's 16 years in the district and having stability of leadership and having a central office that works together and having members of our staff, especially our administrators in the schools, respect Dory. I think, you know, I'm supporting this motion.
Anyone else? Mr. Nicotinsky.
Steve, it's Adi.
Yes, Adi, go ahead.
So I guess the most important question is, how did the board decide this? I feel like this is like deja vu. This contract was not discussed in personnel. This contract was not discussed in June, July closed session. So again, we're left in the dark again. And then back in May, the board was told that administrators were not receiving a raise. This contract has one. The board received a copy of a letter from the county superintendent dated July 16th, approving the contract. That letter was only sent to the board last week. It seems like the majority of the board are not focused on what's really important right now. We should focus our time, energy, and resources on more pressing issues. Why are we rushing to renegotiate an existing contract that has 2 years left? How can we pass this contract when our teachers are still working without one? So with that said, I'm actually going to table this item. This contract should be discussed in detail in either closed session or in a personnel committee next month.
All right,
I second that.
all right, we have a motion.
That's a priority motion. That's
Yes.
Adi Nicotinsky moved the motion. Michelle Arminio second. I'll go right to a vote.
Yes.
Vote is to table the motion. Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Oh, wait, no.
Thank you. Mr. Delory.
No.
Mrs. DeMayo.
You'll take, Mr. Mayor, you have to, on the tabling.
DeMayo, your microphone.
No.
I record that as a no. Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mrs. Siegel.
No.
Mr. Chiarella is absent. Mr. Rutsky.
No.
Nicotinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Tefano.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
No.
Mr. Ryback, the noes have it, motion fails.
Okay.
Mr.
Hey,
Ryback,
Steve.
I have a comment on the resolution. Okay. This is Michelle Arminio. I'd like to know why it's necessary to visit this issue when I'm sure there are parents waiting desperately once again, as they did last month, to talk about the opening of the school and our children's education. Why is this issue, is it necessary to visit this issue again today? During the crisis, the nation and the community is now gripped with. When we have a valid contract in place for the next 2 years, that will be very consistent. it was voted on by most of the people on this board. It was voted by consensus, not unanimously. And the same people now are bringing it up for a brand new contract. I think that we are overstepping, and we should not be voting on this now. We have other issues to deal with, especially financial. And it has nothing to do with the evaluative comments that other board members have made. I was talking about the procedure and how this worked. I still believe that there wasn't proper notice given. And I think that we should not when we have a first year superintendent, we should be waiting at least to the second or third year to consider extending. We have a crisis that we don't know how we will come on in the other end of this crisis. And I think it would be prudent for us to stick with what we have. There's no reflection on Dr. Alvick. But again, the other board members who actually gave evaluative testimony, when we're told that we're not allowed to talk about this because this is a personnel matter, and yet it wasn't discussed in the personnel committee and it wasn't discussed in closed session. So it seems that there are just a few people who are involved in this issue. So again, my objections.
Mr. Wright, Mr. Board President, I checked with the board attorney. Formal statutory notice was provided and satisfied according to the board attorney.
I know. Okay.
Hey, Steve, I'm sorry. I didn't get my answer. I didn't get my question answered.
Mr. Board President.
How did the board decide on this? That's what I want to know.
Mr. Nicotinsky, let me move on. You had a motion to table it. The motion failed. Mrs. Alminio is bringing up some points. I'm not going to belabor this. We did discuss this. You know, we discussed this, and I'm going to move this.
We didn't discuss the 4-year contract.
Mr. President, may I say something? This is Andy Polari.
Andy, I'm going to call the question.
Yes, that's exactly what I intend to do. I think their point is valid.
Meeting go till 1 a.m. because we're belaboring things that we've gone to already. All right, I said at this point, I'm going to close.
Good on transparency.
I'm going to open it up to the public, and I'm going to read something first. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, the board shall not publicly discuss personnel matters and shall not respond to comments made by members of the public. However, the board will give all comments appropriate consideration. So now we'll open it up to the public, and then we'll have the board vote. Elliot, do we have, how many people do we have there? Mr. Feldman, how many?
It looks like we have about 6 so far, and I'll let you know if there's more additions.
Okay, to the members of the public, you'll have 4 minutes to speak, and I'm asking you just to give your name and address. And mind you, please, we are only talking right now about the renegotiated contract for the superintendent. Nothing else. There'll be another public session to talk about agenda items and then non-agenda items. So right now, it's only to the agenda. Okay, we're ready.
Mr. Board President, Chrissy Skirby.
All right, Ms. Skirby.
Go ahead, Ms. Skirby.
Hi, Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. Well, we know that there was a superintendent's evaluation. Clearly, this new 4-year contract came from that. As listed in the contract, this is a contract which supersedes the previous contract. We know the board had set up goals with the superintendent that were to be achieved for this past year. One of those goals was putting forth a referendum to address our overcrowding issues. Another one was to complete strategic planning meetings. Neither of these goals have been met. Regardless of a pandemic or not, or what other circumstances there may have arisen, the fact remains. Last year, the vote to hire Dr. Alvick was a 6-4 with members voting no. It was a very controversial hiring with a 3-year contract. After only 1 year, which ended in a complete mess because of the pandemic, you decide to renegotiate a contract that has 2 more years on it to begin with. Why? In the middle of a pandemic, you negotiated a contract for a BA with a raise, the contract for the attorney, and hired yet another law firm for a ridiculous investigation that yielded nothing in regards to Mr. Peluri's claim he read on Facebook. What you did not do was find a way to negotiate the teacher's contract. Yet again, under the leadership of the board of Mr. Ryback and Ms. Kalpanowicz, our teachers are again working without a contract. That should have been the focus. What we didn't do was collaborate as a board and work together with the administration to ensure that we have a strong remote learning plan in place for our students. For Ms. DeMayo to have almost no understanding of Schoology is unbelievable, as exhibited in the curriculum committee meeting tonight. You board members should all know exactly what is being rolled out next week. My guess is that you don't. This is a very divided and corrupt board. We watched 2 years ago as Dr. Kozak was fired singularly without a full vote of the board in person. Tonight, we will watch the same 6 board members vote for this new contract, regardless of what concerns the minority of the board have. The board lacks transparency, fiscal responsibility, and our children, our teachers, our community as a whole are the ones who pay dearly for it. That
We have another person, Ms. Feldman?
I do. Roshni Shah, Mr. Board President, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hi, Roshni Shah, 10 Fieldview Drive. My question is related to the agenda item. My question is, why are we discussing the superintendent's contract now if it's not up for renewal? Is there a business need for it? Shouldn't the priority be ensuring remote learning is as seamless as possible for the children and that the staff is trained and equipped to do so, given that going into a 100% virtual environment has never been done before? Isn't that what all of our resources should be dedicated to? It just seems that we're focusing on the wrong thing. And I'm surprised to hear that most of the board hasn't even discussed this. I urge the board to consider this when voting because it will really be disheartening to know that that this is the focus of the board instead of focusing on the remote learning model. That's the end of my question. Thank you.
Mr. Feldman, is there anyone else?
I'm sorry about that. Pradeep Malam, you are up.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. Pradeep Malam, 4 Jake Place, Monroe. So one of the board members just stated that July 16th dated, we received an approval from the county. And before getting approval from the county, when this contract was discussed within the board before it went to the county? That's the only question for me.
Well, I couldn't understand his question.
Okay, the question is, the county approved this contract on 16th of June, right?
Okay.
16th of, yeah, but when it was discussed before it was sent to the county, in which personal meeting in which board meeting it was discussed before it submitted to the county?
I believe we discussed that at a closed session meeting before that.
Yeah, but it was never announced that this contract is up for renewal or we are applying for. You didn't even mention in any closed session resolutions.
Because it's a negotiation and we don't talk about negotiations in public. Okay. Next, let's move on. Mr. Feldman.
Mr. Board President, we have Prakash Parab. Prakash.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Good evening. You know what? I'm looking from outside. I have nothing against Dr. Alvich, okay? I'm looking from outside. Already we have Dr. Alvich contracts for another 2 years. So why sudden this rush? And it has not, listening to Arminio, Adi, and this was not even discussed openly with board members. So, you know, we are looking at transparency and everyone discuss it and look at the goals, stretch goals put in, how much our superintendent has met and why, you know, proceed with 2 years, not suddenly 4 years. You know, Dr. Alvich, I know she is from our town and she's trying her best to do. Personally, I like her. She replies to me within 1 day. What decisions she takes, likes it or not, that's fine. But at least she's frank enough and gives her opinion. You know, I want Dr. Alvich to be independent, not to be influenced by anyone, and take our school to the best. But as the previous Rashmi Shah said, I agree with her. I agree with the public that many chows are going on, and why suddenly put this on the agenda, and then it has not been heard by the entire BOE members, not gone through the proper procedures. You guys want to talk to the lawyer and take her consent? I want to speak to the lawyer on one-on-one. I'll challenge all this lawyer, board of our business person, everyone, come on, open forum, let us speak about this. What is this nonsense? I like Dr. Alvich. I respect her, but don't put these items in the middle and try to push this, okay? So those are my comments. And I tell you, this is not good. This is not good for unity. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Feldman.
Mr. Board President, we have Gurpreet Singh. Gurpreet, you're up.
Hello. I want to speak in favor of extending the contract for Dory. She's an excellent superintendent, and she is a good talent, and we should not let her go. So, if we are locking her contract for next 4 years, I'm all for it. Like everybody likes her, so I would like to keep her here. And she is the best qualified choice for superintendent with a 16-year commitment to Monroe. And we need stability, especially in these times when there is pandemic, and we don't know how this education thing is going to play out over the next few years. So I'm all for it. So like it's a great thing for Monroe and all the students of Monroe. Thank you.
Next person, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if you already spoke and still have your hand, could you kindly just lower it? It makes it easier to roll through the meeting. Mr. President, we have Brian Fabiano. Brian, you're up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome, Brian.
So, thank you. You know, it's kind of a hard.
Give your address, please.
Sorry, Brian Fabiano, 19 Patricia Place.
Thank you.
Open for a cup of tea with any of you anytime. You know, it's hard to follow Chrissy and Prakash and some of the others here because they really do highlight, I think, what many of us feel in the community. This is a unique time. I'm not here personally to bash Dr. Alvich. I think she's done a great job. But coming from corporate America, like many of you have, there needs to be time for an evaluation, time to see someone in a role before we jump. I question, I know you won't answer this, you know, what is the reason with 2 years left that we are jumping to this? Has Dr. Alvich indicated that she may want to leave the district where we find there's, you know, certain urgency to extend her contract? But I think in the times that we're in now, in a pandemic where, as of last month's data, 13.8% of the state of New Jersey is unemployed. Parents in our own district are just trying to get by, not knowing the plans that we are going to come up against in September, you know, my family included. You know, these are not the times to be spending more money. And if you look at corporate America, you know, and that's the way this board and this district should be run as a business. You know, we always hear Kathy talk about, you know, we have to have Falcon Care open because it brings a lot of money into the town. You know, we have to do this because we need the money, the budget. Well, it seems like we're instantly throwing all that to the side and saying, well, now in the middle of a pandemic when unemployment is at record high, parents are struggling, let's just hand out more money in a longer contract. You know, it's interesting, and I know a few of the others have said it. Our teachers still don't have contracts. Isn't it a slap in the face to be giving our top administrator over these teachers that don't have contracts, have been fighting for this period of time? Isn't it a slap in their face to say, we'll reward the person at the top, but you guys take a back seat to when we get around to it? Teachers have to prove themselves. My wife's a teacher. They have to prove themselves for 4 years and 1 day before they can even get tenure. After 1 year, Dr. Alvich has already proved herself. I think she's done a great job, but what is the urgency here? You know, I just don't see the transparency here. And time again, whether it's this or it's something else, this board already has a predetermined outcome before these meetings even take place. It's easy for Steve and others that are not going to be running again to stand up and say, we're just going to push this through. You know, the motion fails, move on. But, you know, I'd like to see if everybody has, everything behind Dr. Alvich here, and Dr. Alvich is the one, I'd like to see Dr. Alvich stand up and say, I'll forego an increase, in my salary. I'll forego an extended contract at this time because I have 2 more years left, because I do see my own parents in this district struggling, my teachers struggling, in the midst of a pandemic, record unemployment. How about having a little compassion, for those around us? So whether or not Dr. Alvich would stand up and say, I'm happy in my position, I'm happy to give it another year. I was reading an interesting article the other day. It was posted on the Ladders, and it was, a whole discussion about raises and promotions during a coronavirus pandemic. And I guess that's it. I can't probably
Yeah, I'm
say
sorry,
anymore.
time's up. I'm just going to make one note and talk about salary. If you look at the contract noted in the agenda for the year 2021, 2022, she's getting 0% increase. So in fact, this entire contract is not costing any more than the original one. So the money isn't the issue, and Mr. Rutsky spoke very well about him keeping their regret for not doing anything for their superintendent. And Dr. Alvich isn't new in our district. She's been here for many years. She's proven herself. Academically, we've grown because of her work in curriculum, her work in professional development. This district has made great strides academically. Just take a look at where our students are going now as opposed they were where they were 10 years ago or something. There's a big difference here. So, all right, I hope I answered some of that. Mr. Feldman, anyone else?
So, Board President, just to give you an update, I have 5 more people currently. The next one up is Michael Oleski. Michael, you're up.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, Steve. Michael Oleski, 50 Mayberry Avenue. I just wanted to mention to you that I've been actively kind of watching things the last couple of weeks. My wife and I don't have any kids, but I've really felt sad and sorrowful for the parents here in the district, going through a lot. Communication, I don't think has been as good as it certainly could have been. But I'll tell you what really got me going. Over the weekend, I think everybody was anxious. They wanted to see what provision was going to be made at this Board of Education meeting, to talk about the issues that are on people's minds today about school reopening. The hours passed on Saturday, on Sunday, and I was about to go to bed around 12:30 in the morning, and lo and behold, that's when I saw the agenda first posted. And of course, that's when I first saw on the agenda this discussion about the renegotiation of the contract, and was shocked to see that it was posted at such late a time, at such late a date. You folks, of course, understand that there aren't many people that read the public notices. It's unfortunate that it is the way it is, but the reality is, I think this was done somewhat sneakily. Sad to say, I would like not to say it, but certainly it sounds that way and looks that way to me. And very, very sad and disappointed that this had to happen the way it did. I too have a lot of respect for Dr. Alvich. I think that she's done a good job. Without knowing any more details, I'm not so sure that I could judge voting yes or no. But again, this is not the right time to be doing this. And we've got much more important things to be concerned about. And if she continues to do a good job, bring this up next year. That's it.
Next person, please.
Mr. Board President, we have Mr. Doug Poy.
Hi, Doug.
Yes, as you know, because I've been very active in board meetings
Doug,
over,
I'm sorry, would you give your address, please?
oh, yes, correct, I'm sorry, 4 Tamarack Road. I essentially have always been supportive of both the Board of Education and our administration. I've listened carefully to the other comments, and essentially I'm not going to be adding too much. I would appreciate knowing what the reason for the renegotiated contract is, because that is not apparent. Also, how does it differ from the current contract? And it's not clear to me whether or not this proposed contract was discussed among the members of the board at either a closed session or in a personnel committee. So I have those questions. There is no question, however, in my mind about what a great superintendent, Dr. Alvich, has shown herself to be in her first year. I know she is a longtime member of the school district, and she's done a great job all those years. I've been very impressed with the work that she's done this current year. For people that are accusing her of not having provided the proper leadership in terms of the reopening of the schools, let me tell you, from everything I've read in the paper and the way the winds have shifted almost daily from the State Department of Education and the governor, I think it's been a very, very difficult task for all school administrators throughout the state to figure out how they're going to reopen the schools. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the direction from the state and the fact that our district does want to keep our teachers and our students safe. As far as why her contract should be renegotiated, as I said, I'm not clear on what the reason is. If she's under a current contract, then it would be nice to know what the reasons for extending it are. In terms of her compensation, I think the compensation appeared very reasonable from what I know of other superintendents' compensations. And in terms of the teacher contract, yes, it would be wonderful to get that contract settled. It is not as simple to settle a teacher's contract as it is to settle the contract for a district superintendent, however. There are many, many more parts involved in a teacher's contract than there is in a superintendent's contract. So if the board could shed some light on those questions that I asked, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
I'll add something to it, Doug. Doug, I'm glad you said that, because it is, of course we want to settle a teacher's contract, but people have to realize there's a big difference between negotiating with a large union and negotiating with one person. As far as Dr. Alvik is concerned, she's really shown her mettle as a leader. She's not new. If she were a first-time superintendent here from another district or outside the district, it's another story. As I said before, we've seen she's been integral in allowing this district to grow academically, special ed, the arts. She's been integral in that, and so much of that is owed to her and her work and her team. Of course, teachers, they're all involved in that, but you know what? It starts at the top, and she's provided the right, professional development. This pandemic situation has really showed her for the leader she is, how thoughtful she is, and in between everything, I'm seeing her answer questions from parents and expeditiously to satisfy their questions. We're constantly looking to improve what we're doing. Those of you that were able to attend the curriculum committee, I think there were, Mr. Mayo, correct me, I think there were 19 areas that we looked at today, and that's really impressive, and it's always impressive. So we're moving academically. We felt after taking a look at this, and the statute allows us to renegotiate a contract with first superintendent after 1 year. We felt it would be good to give the district, as well as Dr. Alvik, a feeling of home, a feeling of belonging and consistency, which this district needs and did not have over the past few years. So all things considered, we decided that would be a good move for the district. And if you look at her contract, it's as far as money, it's not an issue. It's the same money. There was she was able to forego that because it was a new contract. Her old contract, she couldn't take a 0% increase because I think it's statute that says that a superintendent that's on the contract can't reduce their salary. So this new contract allowed her to take a 0% increase, which we all appreciated. I hope I answered some of your questions, at least. Okay, Mr. Feldman, next.
Yes, Mr. Rabbit. Just giving you an update. We have 5 more people. We're going to go to Catherine Hunt. Catherine, you are up.
Hi, Catherine.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Very well, thank you.
Okay, great. I'm Catherine Hunt. I'm at 121 Lowell Lane in Monroe here. And so, and I just wanted to say, I think that our supervisor, from what I've seen, has done a good job, and that she's very well qualified, and she has a really great history with the schools, and we need the stability, and you know, we need some continuance of people who understand what's going on here and have been doing a great job and keep on going. You know, especially at this time when it's so difficult to figure out. And you know, my daughter's a teacher. I've been a teacher, and I know that the teachers have they're very aware of how difficult it is to get back to school and to try to reopen with COVID. It just isn't going to work right now. And so it's a very difficult situation to figure out. And, you know, what do we do with our special ed kids, and what do we do about special circumstances and so forth? And I know the board's been working on that, you know, and how to help working parents. The board's been working on that, and I've talked with some of you about it, and I realize that you're doing a very good job of trying to figure that out. It's not an easy thing to work out. And I know with my daughter's school, they've thought about, are they going to open all the way? Is it going to be partial opening, or what is it going to be? How are they going to handle, you know, special circumstances and so forth? And I think our supervisor is very well qualified to work on all these issues. They're not easy issues to figure out. And, you know, here I am, I'm a senior here. And of course, the contagious part of COVID, it's highly concerning to us. And we don't want to have another spike. And we want to keep our children safe, our grandchildren safe, and our teachers safe, and be able to open at a safe time. And it is safe
Excuse me, we're talking about the contract for the superintendent, not about
yes.
anything else.
Yes.
Please, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. But I just, you know, say I think the decisions are very good. I think it's a difficult time. I think that the superintendent should continue. She has a very good track record. She's aware of all these issues that I kind of went off into detail about. I think we should let her continue and thank her for her service and let her continue. She's doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
Board President, we have Jennifer Romeo. Jennifer, can you please state your name?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I need your name and address, please.
Okay, Jennifer Romeo, 14 Tall Oaks. I just find it funny that it's always the same people over and over again that are constantly causing problems and complaining. And once again, we have people that are complaining about Dr. Alvich. I mean, we need to get over this. We really honestly and truthfully need to worry about opening the schools. She is getting us through this pandemic. She is doing a fantastic job. She answers every question that every parent sends her. If not, she sends it to the appropriate people. We know that she's not new to the district. She's been here for years, and she's been doing an excellent job. And again, it's during a pandemic, which is unprecedented times that we've never And I just think it's a shame that it's always the same people, and it's the same people that are now even running for the Board of Education that are constantly causing the same problems. And now they don't want another superintendent. They've always got a problem with somebody, and it needs to stop. We need to give her a contract. Then we're going to work on the teacher's contract. She's one person. She deserves a contract. She is getting us through this. And I really just said, we just need to move on. We need to move on, and we need to worry about getting these kids into school. That's all.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Mr. Board President, we have Patty Lang. Patty, you're up. Please state your name and address.
Hello, this is Patty Lang, 74 McFarland Circle, Monroe Township. I am fully in support of renewing Dr. Alvick's contract. As a principal, she is accessible to both parents and students. As an assistant superintendent of schools, she remained accessible and approachable. She took the bull by the horns when people didn't stand up. She was instrumental in making sure that we had that parent meeting after the last the big school shooting in February 14 of 2018. And she did that. Her knowledge of good curriculum and staff development and team building has helped to bring many great initiatives to this district. My personal favorite is all the work she's done in the areas of students' emotional health and student wellness and mindfulness, which is imperative right now in the era of COVID and our children not having as strong connections with educators and other people around because of COVID. Dr. Alvick is always thinking outside the box while still complying with the demands placed on her office by the New Jersey Department of Ed. Tonight, the board will make a decision that will impact the stability of the district for good or bad. The Board of Education can only offer a superintendent of a contract not less than 3 years and no more than 5. So when it was offered, it could only be offered for 3 years. Boards can extend an existing contract, but it's still no more than 5. Through my trainings as a board member, when I sat on the board, and discussions with board members across the state, I learned that the majority of Board of Eds offer an initial 3-year contract. Then they do, if they have the ability, if they pass a honeymoon period, if they have a good relationship with their superintendent and they want to keep that superintendent in year 1 or in year 2, they extend that contract. We would be fools to lose Dr. Alvick. We can't afford any more instability. Since I've moved to Monroe, we had 7 years of Dr. Furry, 1 year of Mr. King, 5 years of Dr. Hamilton, who left for a much higher paying job in New York State after Governor Christie put on a superintendent pay cap. 1 year interim superintendent with Mr. Ventrilo, Dr. Kozak for 3 years, Mr. Goodall, and then we gave Dory Alvick a much-deserved 3-year contract. During that time, she was exemplary as our assistant superintendent of schools. Given this, we need to give her the contract because it will provide the time necessary for her to fully address and achieve the problems and concerns of this district. It will give her time to keep the district moving forward. Her educational experience is beyond anything that we could ever have hoped to have gotten. We need the board members to put their petty disagreements aside and come together to extend Dr. Alvick's contract, because doing so is in the best interest of our students, of our district, and our community. And the role of the Board of Ed is to make decisions in the best interest of students, period. It's not to play with transparency. It's not to answer questions like that. It's to make decisions in the best interest of students. And right now, every person sitting on that board has the opportunity to do that. And I challenge you to step up and do what is finally right for these students and put your petty differences aside and extend this contract for Dr. Alvick. We would not survive if we lost her, because people are not going to apply for jobs in a district that goes through superintendents and intern superintendents like we go through toilet paper during COVID. It is insane that this is even questioned. And it was on the agenda because the only reason I know to address it was the agenda. Thank you. Have a great.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman, next.
Mr. Board President, as of now, we have one more person. It's Polly Gupta. Polly, you're up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I just need your name and address, please.
My name is Polly Gupta. I am in 8 Jenna Court, Monroe Township. I am here. I'm just repeating what others have said, so I'll not take much of your time. I think the most urgent matter at hand is to make sure that we have a better understanding about what the future of these children are going to be with virtual schooling, how we are approaching that before anything else is discussed. That should be, I think, as a parent, that should be the primary focus of the BOE today. We can discuss this, at a later meeting next week, next month, whenever. But right now, we are waiting to hear and understand what the future of our children look like. We should really be more about education and our children right now. Yes, she is awesome. She has answered all our questions, but I think this can wait and we can address this maybe next month once we have a clarity on how the kids are going to start their schooling, how the teachers are going to teach, etc. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's it, Mr. Feldman.
Mr. Board President, it looks like one more person jumped on the line.
We'll have one more and I'm closing the public session because we have to.
Yes, sir. And just before this, Ravi speaks, if everyone who just spoke already, could you please lower your hand? I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Ravi, you're up.
Hi, Ravi Chedigo, 14 Born Court. I think the timing is unfortunate. I agree with other people that, it probably could have waited. But having said that, I think Dr. Aldrich has done a fantastic job. I'm fully supportive of what she has done. If this contract allows us to stay with her to stay with us, there's continuity. I think that is great. So fully supportive. And I really hope this is the last topic that is distracting the board from very important topics that are relevant for the kids and the schools. And I really hope this is the last topic. And I do agree with the other two callers that there are these 3 members of the committee that are constantly putting obstacles, and it just looks like they just want to differ from it. And I think you guys should really work together because we don't really care about your differences. We need the schools to function, and we need you guys to work together and do what is best for the schools. So I really request all of you guys to just work together and just put these stupid differences behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we closed the public session. Now, Mr. Gordon, we can go back and we have a vote on this motion to renegotiate.
Yes, sir. Motion was moved by Mrs. DeMayo, seconded by Ms. Siegel. Ms. DeMayo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Siegel?
Yes.
Ms. Siegel?
You voted yes.
Yes.
Rupa Siegel, I heard a yes. Mr. Tufano?
No.
Mr. Rutsky?
Yes, for many reasons.
Mrs. Arminio?
No.
Mr.
I request again to put the mics on mute if you're not speaking, please. Thank you.
Lori, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Nicotinsky?
No.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
And Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion passes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Lori. Well deserved. Okay, can move on now to committee reports. Any committee chair would like to report? Please.
I have a report.
Who's that?
Jill?
Okay, Jill, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we had a very busy curriculum committee tonight. We reviewed 16 documents, and I'm going to just go through them really quickly. Kelly Roselle reviewed Honors American Studies 1, Honors American Studies 2, Journalism 2. These are language arts courses, and they were updated to reflect diverse literature and perspectives, updated New Jersey student learning standards, and additional resources, including technology. She also reviewed an ESL curriculum document, Transition Language Arts and ESL Foundations.
These high school courses support newcomer ESL, English language learner students, and ESL students who have interrupted or limited formal education. She also reviewed Media and Maker K-12 and Media and Maker 3-5. These focused on these documents reflected the Makerspace work, and they updated the New Jersey Student Learning Standards and resources and included technology. We had French 1, Spanish 1, and Italian 1. The French, Italian, and Spanish Level 1 documents aligned with updated New Jersey Student Learning Standards, ensure all consistency for all Level 1 students. She also reviewed AP French, AP Spanish, and AP Italian. The AP World Language documents reflect changes to the AP exam and the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Danielle Drust reviewed AP Chemistry. This completely aligned with the current AP Chemistry course online from College Board. It was an integration of the next generation of science standards as well as 21st century skills. There is authentic laboratory work incorporated throughout. And despite being virtual, there will be thorough teacher demonstrations and virtual lab work. Students will still interact with data, which will help them work on their critical thinking skills. She also reviewed AP Human Geography, which is completely aligned with the current AP Human Geography course outline from College Board. It gives students a better understanding of how humans and their interactions have shaped Earth and its societies. She also reviewed Honors American Studies 2. It's an updated interdisciplinary course that links historical developments in the U.S. during the 20th century with primary sources, diverse literature, and perspectives written during the time period. There is also a half-year course that we reviewed called American Image on Film. This allows students to learn history through viewing films that represent the social and historical mores and values in various time periods. Films are analyzed as a primary source documents to give a broader view of our history. And we had Zach review Sports and Entertainment Marketing course. It's centered on marketing concepts ranging from fundamental to advanced, presented through the lens of a 21st century sports and entertainment arena. The newly revamped course features enhanced technological applications featured in the 21st century professional arena. In addition to the industry's premier industry simulation platforms, the course is in direct alignment to the New Jersey DOE career technical student organizations, competitive programs, and opportunities. We also reviewed Unified Careers Technology course. It's the third installment of the AACT Unified Elective Initiative. This promises a fully inclusive environment featuring units of study centered on STEM and robotic concepts and applications. Instructional units are driven by a blend of newly revised student learning standards and elements of Project Lead the Way curriculum management system. Participating students will have an opportunity to engage in competitions and co-curricular events via the New Jersey DOE CTSO, Technology Student Association, excuse me, and the Monroe Township High School robotics team. We then spent a significant amount of time talking about remote instruction. Adam Lehman gave us the remote instruction framework. The framework provides a general structure that is sustainable and consistent with what occurs with each in-person classroom. The high school instruction will utilize Schoology as the learning management system with conferences or Zoom for the live instruction online meeting space. Hold on. Sorry. Middle and elementary school instruction will utilize Google Classroom Learning Management System with Google Meet or Zoom for the live meeting space. The Learning Management System, or LMS, is where all learning materials, assignments will be housed or referenced. Both systems offer the capability of differentiating instruction and assessment for all types of learners. Professional development has been provided to all the staff over the past 5 years for Google and the past 2 years for Schoology, and through a diverse offering of 1-hour mini courses over the first 4 days of the school year. They showed us a video of how this is going to work with examples using Schoology in Google Classroom, and this is going to be sent to all parents tomorrow. So if parents have any questions once they get it, they can reach out to their building principals, and if they have more specific questions about how their child's classroom is going to work, they should reach out to their student teacher. And those teachers will be available the first week of school once they come back, so that they can assist parents with any questions. That's it. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Mayo? Jill, if I can, I'd like to make one comment.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, and I have a.
Oh, go ahead, Andy. I'll go after you.
Right. Very quick question. A few parents contacted me, Jill, and suggested the senior class have a semester or some classes that would help them cope up with moving to college the first semester, and emotionally, and also, from a socially. Is that something a curriculum can think about introducing during the last semester of the senior class?
This senior class, I think that question's better slated for Dr. Lehman.
Okay, I'll hold back.
I can respond. Yeah, I think that's something we can certainly work with the high school in terms of how to support them in their transitions to transition to college and things. Is that what you're implying? Yes. Yeah, we can certainly work with the guidance department and any of our support staff and coming up with a plan to help them out. Mrs. D'Amato, I just wanted to add, I worked with Mr. Feldman in the background in between meetings, and we're going to be able to show the video during my update.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
So I was going to make a comment. We hear parents saying, what are we doing in the schools for the kids, for academics, etc. Well, they really need to, I'm encouraging them to watch the curriculum committee. In fact, because you do so much, Dr. Lehman. I can't believe the amount of work we saw just today, and in fact, every month, what's going on in our schools, the excellence that's going on in our schools academically for our kids. And as I said before, it's not only academics, it's the arts, special education, sports, extracurricular activities. We're going through a very difficult time, and you're still making headway with academic achievement and enrichment. So I wish parents would watch the curriculum committee, and they see that the board and the teachers and the supervisors and certainly the central administrators are making great headways in these areas. So thank you, all of you, for what you're doing. Any other committee chair?
Mr. Ryback, it's Rupa.
Sure.
I have a policy meeting.
Go ahead.
Okay, so our policy committee met on Wednesday, August 16th. We reviewed several policies and have them on the agenda tonight for first read. Dr. Alvik had also provided a brief update on the reopening plans and communication that would be sent to staff and parents. So the first policy we reviewed was policy 1648, Restart and Recovery Plan. Strauss Esme has developed a plan template that school districts may use in developing their restart plan. This is the mandated policy that school districts need to adopt. The policy incorporates all the opening plans that were submitted to the county office. Just some history on the policy. On June 26, 2020, the New Jersey Department of Education published the Road Back, Restart and Recovery Plan for Education, a guidance document for reopening New Jersey schools in September 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. The plan template includes items the school district should incorporate into their plan, referred to as the anticipated minimum standards in the NJDOE guidance, and identifies those areas where the school district must develop protocols that best fit the district's local needs. The plan template is designed to have a school district insert its locally developed protocols into an appendices section of the plan template, which would complete the school district plan. Policy Guide 1648 includes the areas in the NJDOE guidance that require a policy and areas in the NJDOE guidance that indicate a school district must take specific action. Section of the policy guide reference appendices that must be attached to the policy. These appendices are the same locally developed protocols school officials included in the school district's restart and recovery plan. So the appendices that were attached to our policy are Appendix C, Transportation Protocol, Waiver Forms, Samples, etc. Appendix E, Screening, PPE, and Response to Students and Staff Presenting Symptoms. Appendix F, Contact Tracing. Appendix G, Facilities Cleaning Practices. Appendix K, Academic, Social, and Behavioral Supports. Appendix N, Scheduling of Students. And Appendix O, Staffing. So Strauss Esme believes adopting one policy that addresses the NJDOE's guidance and having to abolish just one policy when this pandemic is over is preferred to revising 6 or 7 policies now and then revising the same 6 or 7 policies when this pandemic is over. The policy guide shall only be effective through the current COVID-19 pandemic and will take precedence over any existing district policy or regulation on the same or similar subject unless determined otherwise by the superintendent. The next policy reviewed was policy 1648.02, remote learning options for families. The policy guide is mandated and must be adopted by the board and also included under Appendix Q in the school district's plan. The information was also shared in the district presentations that Dr. Alvik and the school district led over the last month. This outlines So I'm going to just share some history, some information about this policy. On July 24th, 2020, the New Jersey Governor and Commissioner of Education published guidance titled Clarifying Expectations Regarding Full-Time Remote Learning Options for Families 2020 to 2021 Remote Learning Guidance regarding full-time remote learning. This includes an additional anticipated minimum standard, as this phrase is used throughout the NJDOE guidance. This additional anticipated minimum standard required component provides that in addition to the methods and considerations explicitly referenced in the guidance for scheduling students for in-person, remote, or hybrid learning, families, guardians, hereinafter referred to as parents, may submit and school districts shall accommodate requests for full-time remote learning. To ensure clarity and consistency in the implementation of such full-time remote learning, the remote learning guidance requires boards of education to adopt policies that address, at a minimum, 1, the unconditional eligibility for full-time remote learning, 2, procedures for submitting full-time remote learning requests, 3, scope and expectations of full-time remote learning, 4, procedures to transition from full-time remote learning to in-person services, 5, reporting, and 6, procedures for communicating district policy with families. Policy Guide 1648.02 has been developed to address the provisions in the remote learning guidance, including all 6 areas listed. Policy Guide 1648.02 must be adopted by the board. The remote learning guidance requires school districts to provide a process for a parent to request full-time remote learning, which shall be included in the school district's restart and recovery plan, in addition to the required methods and considerations explicitly referenced in the NJDOE guidance for scheduling students for in-person, remote, or hybrid learning. This must be added to the district's plan submitted to the executive county superintendent. And the last provision in this policy guide, 16.4802, indicates this policy guide will also be included in the school district's plan as Appendix Q, Remote Learning Options for Families. This appendix provides a process for a student to transition into and out of full-time remote learning as required in the remote learning guidance. The next policy reviewed was Policy and Regulation 5320, Immunizations. The policy and regulation has been updated to align with current law, and the revisions of the policy are minor, while most of the revisions are found in the regulation. Another policy reviewed was Policy and Regulation 5610, Suspension. This is a mandated policy and regulation that must be adopted by the board. PL 2019, Chapter 479 was recently signed into law and codified as NJSAA 18A:37-2C. The new statute requires the principal to convene a meeting between a student and appropriate school personnel after a student has experienced multiple suspensions or may be subject to a proposed expulsion from public school to identify any of the student's behavior or health difficulties as soon as practicable. The new statute also allows the principal to hold this meeting if it is the first time a student is suspended, if the principal deems such a meeting appropriate. The purpose of the meeting is to ascertain whether the student needs supportive interventions or referrals utilizing school or community resources to address identified behaviors or health difficulties. Policy and regulation guides have been revised to reflect the requirements mandated by this new statute. We also reviewed policy 5620, expulsion, the same policy that I just reviewed the summary of for suspensions is the reason why we had to update this policy also. Only the policy has been updated to reflect the change. There are no changes to the regulation. And the next policy was, our last policy was policy 7510, use of school facilities. There's been discussions in other board committees, such as the Education, Advocacy, and Finance, and with the community as a whole to revise this policy. This policy was updated to include Monroe Township resident and outside of Monroe Township individual and organization use of our buildings, adding another tier to the policy to generate revenue in the future when our buildings can be used for outside use. The regulation was also updated with more detailed information on insurance, rules for use, etc. And then there's one other item I wanted to address at this point. It was brought to my attention that members of the community were questioning why I didn't open up the policy meeting to the public to ask questions. We had 20 minutes left at the end of our policy meeting. And, you know, it's not appropriate to open the committee meeting to the public when the full board is not present. They would not have been privy to the comments made by community members. And also, it's not our practice as committee chairpersons to open committee meetings to the public. So I just wanted to mention that. And that ends my policy report.
Thank you, Ms. Siegel. Any questions for Ms. Siegel? I need board members to call out because I can't see everybody on my screen. So if you're raising your hand, I may not see you. Anyone have questions for Ms. Siegel? Okay, not hearing one. Any other committee chair, please call out if you have it.
Mr. Ryback, this is Paul Rutsky.
Okay, Mr. Rutsky, go ahead.
So I wasn't able to attend our finance meeting last week, but I did, and I want to say thank you to Mrs. Arminio for sitting in and acting as the chair for the meeting. And so I would like to just turn it over and allow Michelle, I ask her to please review the notes and minutes. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. It's my pleasure, and thank you for allowing me to be the chairperson. We had our meeting on Wednesday, August 19th at 7 p.m. We had a virtual meeting, and I believe there was anywhere from 10 to 17 members of the public also attending, of course, remotely. We talked about first the 2021 lease purchasing finance bid results. And what that is, the bid result was for financing the bid last week, which was already board approved in the 2021 budget. Mr. Gorski advertised a bid for a 5-year lease purchase financing of the following equipment. So this is not a bid for buying the equipment. This is a bid for the funds for which we will be using to buy the equipment. But it is $1,783,710, and that money will finance computers for $867,161, instructional equipment at $71,154, a copier, I don't know if that's one or more than one, at
That's
27.
one, Mrs. Arminio.
I'm sorry?
That's one copier.
One copier?
Yes, ma'am.
23,760. Faculty equipment, $2,635. Buses and vans, $819,000. And again, the total that we will be financing over a 5-year period is $1,783,710. And that will be to TD Equipment Financing with an interest rate of 1.0981%, and which was considerably less than was budgeted. And the committee certainly recommended the approval of the bid. Next, we had the sad news of the sad, but probably not unusual, the state reduction. We had a reduction previously of $693,723. Mr. Gorski informed the committee that he spoke to the county business administrator, who stated that the state budget is estimated until September 30th of this year. And consequently, school aid, which was recently reduced, could possibly be reduced further if the state is unsuccessful in receiving federal aid or if state emergency bond sales don't suffice. Mr. Gorski, is there any update to that?
Yes, ma'am. I was going to interject when you were finished. The state did send guidance that there will be no more reductions to the 2020-2021 school budget in terms of state aid. And the state was actually allocating additional monies to fight COVID and for health and safety. So that threat has abated since the finance committee meeting.
Okay, so they still reduced it by the $693,723. That's going to remain. We just don't anticipate for the 2021 budget a further reduction in state aid?
Thank goodness that's correct.
Okay, then we have a cash position and liquidity update. This has to do with the collection of taxes in Monroe Township. Mr. Gorski presented the status of the municipal tax payments pursuant to the request of the Finance Committee. The tax collections in August for the school tax payment of $19,275,476 was on time. We received that from the municipality as they are in charge of dispersing the tax funds. Furthermore, the recent discussion with the township's CFO and Mr. Gorski revealed that the township believes that September payment of $7,441,120 should not be an issue and is expected to be transferred in time and in full. And just on a personal note, I'd like to thank all of the residents on Monroe for helping sustain our community and our budgets. So I think it's a wonderful thing that we have a very high percentage of tax collection participation. And I, for one who represent, as well as the students, the whole community, I thank them for their gracious support. We have some grants that we have also received. We have Mr. Gorski presented at the committee meeting the district's effort to secure external revenues to assist the COVID-19 crisis as well as budget shortfalls. Mr. Gorski outlined the Alyssa's grant, where the district was awarded $387,668. Mr. Gorski provided an overview of Alyssa's law, which is A746, signed by Governor Murphy in February of 2018, in memory of Alyssa Aldhef, a New Jersey native from Woodcliff Lake, who was among the 17 people that were killed in the Parkland shooting high school in last February. The law requires public and secondary schools to be equipped with at least one panic alarm that is directly linked to law enforcement authorities. According to the administration, Monroe meets the spirit of this law through Motorola walkie-talkies that are in service in all schools. With the district, they're in service in all schools with I guess the district security and the transportation people have these walkie-talkies. The walkie-talkie direct link panic button was demonstrated to the Buildings and Grounds and Transportation Committee. However, we have an opportunity through the grant funding to substantially upgrade our emergency notification by installation of a system known as LENS, that's capital LENS. Administration advised that they work closely with the district security and school administration to develop a plan for installation of a lens system throughout the district. A video presentation showing the operations of a lens system was viewed by, again, the Building, Grounds, and Transportation Committee. Administration believes that they are successful with the grant application, that 100% of the cost could be borne through the grant application. Secondly, Mr. Gorski discussed CARES grant, where pursuant to the application, the district was awarded $112,607 to fight the COVID-19. The district has issued the purchase orders for Chromebooks, duct cleaning, environmental safety management and training, equipment, and PPE supplies. I believe that the $112,607 for COVID grant has specific and earmarked uses. We cannot just use it for normal budgetary issues. We have to use it for specific COVID-related issues. Is that correct, Mr. Gorski?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Third, Dr. Lehman discussed the Digital Divide Grant, where the district was awarded $191,348 for specific technology needs. Dr. Lehman outlined the procurement of Chromebooks and mobile hotspots for students who are on free and reduced lunch, indicated in a survey, and that they do have access to devices or internet. I believe that Digital Divide Grant, Dr. Lehman, if you're there, is also specific to the needs of students during the COVID crisis.
Yes, that is correct. But it's available. Our technology that we're acquiring through that grant is available to any student. It's not just specific to the free and reduced lunch students. The tech survey we sent out was for everybody, and we're going to use this to supplement our K-8 Chromebooks.
Right, that's great, thank you. And finally, Mr. Gorski presented the new community support of our district during this pandemic. Board member Rupa Siegel was successful in soliciting a donation from a generous family in our community, Surendra and Purnima Valbahani, excuse me if I mispronounced it, who contributed a check for $3,600 to provide additional Chromebooks to the Monroe Middle School. Dr. Lehman, how many will that supply us? Dr. Lehman?
I'm right here. They cost $240 each. I believe the donation was for 15 Chromebooks. Is that correct, Mr. Gorski?
15, that's correct.
Yes.
And finally, I'm just adding this. We also discussed that because of some changes, because of COVID-19 and our remote learning and all of the crises, we are not spending the $500,000 for the trailers. That is deferred at this time. There are 2 staff positions that the hiring has been postponed, and $100,000 for the proposed but not being used bond referendum. So it's not that we're gaining that money, it's just that we're not using it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arminio. Any board member have a question for Ms. Arminio?
Actually, Steve, this is Paul. Can I just say thank you to Michelle real quick?
Sure.
Couldn't have done a better job, Michelle. Thank you very much.
Did a good job.
Thank you.
I just want to point out too, I enjoyed reading the notes and I watched the meeting, so thank you. That's roughly $700,000 worth of grants that we just accepted. Right. And those don't just happen. I just want the public to understand that those grants don't just happen. The state never just says, oh, here's $700,000. There's a lot of work filling out those applications, providing documentation and follow up. And it's great that we got all those grants, and those amounts was really spectacular job well done. So thank you. As the finance chair, just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Question, Ms. Siegel?
Mr. Ryback, would it be okay to follow Mr. Arminio with the motion for the Chromebooks that were donated? I have a motion that I could read.
I guess we could.
That's okay. Okay. So the motion is it is recommended that the members of the Monroe Township Board of Education accept and acknowledge a donation of $3,600 to the Monroe Township Board of Education by Surendra and Purnima Valabaneni for the purpose of purchasing 15 Chromebooks to be utilized in the Monroe Township Middle School or at the discretion of the superintendent of schools.
Okay, I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Ms. Arminio seconds and Mr. Rutsky moved it. Any question, comment?
I would just like to, Ms. Michelle Arminio, I would just like to thank them for their generous offer and consideration for the school system and the education of our children. That's very lovely.
It's nice when we have people step up, and I know that happens. Actually, pretty frequently, I've been noticing people donating what they can to the schools. It's really nice to know that we have citizens that are really thinking about our students, because we all are our future. Did I see, Mr. Tufano, did you have a question for?
No, I wanted to read my committee meeting.
Okay, just want to make sure there's no one else with a question. Anyone else have a question for Ms. Arminio?
No.
We have to vote on this motion, don't we, Mr. Gorski?
Yes, sir. Motion to accept donation. Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. I'm sorry, Ms. DeMayo.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Nicotinsky.
Yes, and thank you.
Mr. Fleury.
Yes.
Mrs. Arminio.
Yes, gratefully.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Tufano.
Yes, and thank you very much.
Ms. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes, and thank you on behalf of the district.
Mr. Board President, motion unanimously passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, Mr. Tufano, it's all yours.
Okay, on August 19th, the Buildings, Ground, and Transportation Committee met. First item on the agenda was Eagle Scout Joseph Kaskis project presentation. Joseph Kaskis, I hope I'm saying that right, a local resident, student, and candidate for Eagle Scout, presented a volunteer project that he was proposing for the Applegarth School playground. The project is endorsed by Applegarth School Principal, Ms. Dawn Graziano. The committee was appreciative and complimentary of Joseph's proposal and approved proceeding with the project. I had offered to personally assist Joseph with the material and donate my labor to help him with the project. On the second item on the agenda was the HVAC ultraviolet vendor that we met, Jason Ferguson of General Air Systems. The product data handouts were provided an overview of ultraviolet light systems for HVAC enhancement, was presented by vendor sales representative Jason Ferguson. Committee members asked many questions, but the main issue seemed to be that although UV lighting has proven advantages dealing with some viruses, its ineffectiveness against coronavirus has not yet been proven. Its effectiveness against coronavirus has not yet been proven. And then we had another representative from a different company, HVAC bipolar ionization vendor Gene Bone of D&B Engineering. Product handouts were also handed out for this. They were provided with an overview of bipolar ionization equipment, additions to HVAC enhancement, was presented by vendors, the vendor sales representative Gene Bone. Committee members asked many questions and confirmed that bipolar ionization has confirmed laboratory testing verification of success with eliminating coronavirus bacteria. Administrators working with Mr. Bone on developing budget costs for implementing this equipment at the schools. The fourth item on the agenda was the Oak Tree Stopgap project. Administration provided a brief overview of the status of construction, noting that delivery of classroom lights, fixtures, and piece of HVAC equipment are on back order. The committee commended the facilities maintenance staff for performing the construction, thereby saving contracting costs. Fifth thing on the agenda was the UST replacement project at transportation. Administration provided a brief overview of the status of construction, highlighting that the existing UST was successfully removed from under the supervision of our pollution and liability insurance underwriters environmental professional, and that evidence of petroleum leaks or soil contamination were found. Photos of the ongoing construction were reviewed. During construction disassembly, it was identified that existing in-ground dispenser sump pumps beneath the pumps were corroded and needed to be replaced. The committee authorized a change order expenditure of $15,800 to remove to replace the corroded sumps. Number 6 was the wheelchair lift replacement at Applegarth. Administration provided a brief overview of status of construction. Nothing that the replacement lift is not available yet. However, an incoming student who would normally require use of the lift will not require same due to revised schedules related to quarantine conditions. And that's all we have.
Thank you, Mr. Tufano. Any board member have a question for Mr. Tufano?
Not a question, but just a clarification. Peter, I think one of the things that they also reported was that the oil tank was removed, the DEP was in presence, and the oil tank did not exhibit any leakage, which is a positive thing, and no fines were handed out during that, which I think is
I read
good.
that, Andy. I read that.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't hear it.
Okay. Any other board member, please call out. I have a question for Mr. Tufano. Oh, I don't hear anybody. Thank you, Mr. Tufano. Mr. Pelori, you're next. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that when the committee report started, we had about 242 people. Now we're down to 218. I think these committee reports are taking a lot of time, and I know people are anxious to listen to Dr. Alvik and the plans. So I'm going to keep my remarks extremely limited, primarily because Michelle Arminio covered everything that I needed to cover on my report. Most of the grants, I'm not going to repeat those again. The status of the township payment, the August payment of $19,275,476 came on time, so that's a great news. As Mr. Groski mentioned, the governor's budget address was yesterday, $32 billion budget, which includes $1.2 billion cuts in services. But fortunately, he's not cutting the school funding. So that's definitely a great news to get whatever we can get at this point. Cutting any further is really cutting into the bone at this point in time. The one item that I do want to bring up is a meeting with the legislators. We discussed it the last couple of meetings. It was suggested during the Education Advocacy Committee meeting to hold this towards the end of September or beginning of October. A lot of citizens are looking forward to having this meeting. We're working on the format on how best we can have everybody's questions answered, get the questions well in advance. So there'll be more information forthcoming in the September meeting. In the interest of time, I'm going to stop there, Mr. President, and move on to the last committee report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pelori before we move on? I think we covered everybody. Did I forget anybody? Okay, we're good.
Personnel?
Well, I don't think there's anything she can report. I'm not sure. Mrs. Koloponowicz, did you have anything to report on personnel?
No, there really isn't anything that I need to report.
I know, I didn't think so. Okay, thank you. So now we can move on to the public forum for agenda items only. You have 4 minutes. Please state your name and address. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to stop you because it's your right to speak on the agenda item. But if it's dealing with the contract for the superintendent, we've had a public session on that already. It's been voted on. So if we can move on to other items, I'd appreciate it. But again, it's your right to speak, and I don't want to deny that to anyone. Mr. Feldman, can we have our first person?
Certainly, Mr. Board President. We have Prakash Parab. Prakash, please state your name and address.
Yes, Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Everyone can hear me?
Yes, very well, Prakash.
Thank you. Thank you, President. First of all, I thank the Board of Education and the district for going remote till November. So very good decision. I know Dr. Alvich, Dr. Lehman, and many of the staff, I know it was not easy. You all worked very hard. So wholeheartedly, thank you. Thank you. This is good. I'm a scientist. I think taking care of the children and the families. And I was most concerned about asymptomatic spread. The children don't have fever or any symptoms, but they get infected and they spread the infection. I was worried about that going to remote. Looking good. The gyms are going to be opening at 25%, and also indoor dining will be opening with restriction next few weeks. So I write everyday notes about the governor. I know what's going on. I know that governor gave a budget. We were supposed to get, as in March or April announced, we were supposed to get 17% increase in our aid, but we got 5.1% increase in the aid. We were supposed to get around 1 million. We are going to get around 300 and few thousand. So that is the information. Now coming to a few questions. Enrollment. Every time I see on the agenda, what is the enrollment going on in the schools? So this time I don't see it. So I would like to see the enrollments going on in the school, in high school, middle school, and elementary school. And what I didn't see what is the expenditure we had for last 2 months. So please, I would like to see how much expenses were done by the school district. And Mr. Gorski in the last meeting, just informed me, repeated questions that the schools are closed from March to now. Everything is remote. How much savings we had? The answer was it was minimum because it was mandatory by the state or the DOE that we have to pay for the contract workers. So I have not heard governor saying that. So I want to know what directive you guys received. I would like to have that so that I want to, many people are furloughed. Many people, of the parents here, so residents have lost their jobs. If the government is saying to pay the people who are not working, even contract people, is not fair on the people who are paying taxes. So I want to see that. So those are the 3 questions I have. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Gorski, I don't know, does any of that require an answer right now or?
Well, certainly, Mr. Parab, the district accounting department now is working on closing the books and getting the year-end figures closed into the auditor. And that will not only show available balances from specifically closing schools, but the effect of all the surplus, which we've been closely keeping an eye on because it has been depleting over the last few years. So stay tuned, that number will be finalized and released shortly.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman, we have the next person.
Yes, Mr. Board President, we have Chrissy Skirby. Chrissy, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Yes, hi, Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. I did attend the curriculum committee meeting tonight, and I wanted to thank Dr. Lehman and Mr. Moraldo, Mrs. Gasco, and the other supervisors who were there to present to the committee what was going to take place in the elementary, middle school, and high school class days. I wanted to say that I think Schoology is a great tool that is going to be used at the high school. As a member of the high school pandemic response team, I was in a meeting this morning and they went through the school day for the high school and all of the technology that is being utilized through Schoology, which is actually really amazing. I do think that maybe going forward, the district should consider Schoology across the board. I know Google Classroom is going to be used for elementary and middle school, but it would be really great if the entire district was on one platform. And I know, Dr. Lehman, you said you're going to be able to show the video. I think that video was excellent to show parents exactly what is going to take place and what the technology looks like for the classroom. So I do give you a lot of credit for putting that together, and I think it's going to be great for parents to see that tonight. And then I just wanted to say, I do understand that the district has been working very hard, the administration, coming up with plans. And I know it's not easy with the governor changing back and forth. And I do appreciate all the hard work that is being done. I know that we had said that the district was ready to open a hybrid, have kids go back in. And then last week we did an about face because the governor changed guidelines and said that we could start all remote. And now all of a sudden we're not ready. So I think that the community and the parents really need to understand why we're not ready. What makes us not ready to open the school? Is it the PPE? Is it the air filters that are not ready? Is it that we had a lot of staff that was going to put in for Family Medical Leave Act, which actually on the agenda tonight, I think I counted only 10 teachers or staff members that actually put in for some sort of medical leave when it was stated that there was, I think, 100 that were going to do that. So, and that has actually caused a lot of conversation in social media that has sort of pitted the parents against the teachers, which I think is really unfortunate, because if our teachers are concerned and there are concerns for health reasons for not coming back into the building, I think that we need to support them, and we need to understand them as a community, what is not ready to be open, why we're not ready to be open. So I really would like to get clarification tonight on why we did change and went from, opening hybrid to now doing all remote. What exactly are we not ready? Why are we not ready to open?
Dr. Alvin, you want to answer that now, or do you want to do it for your superintendent's report?
I can do a brief answer now and then more detailed during superintendent's report. To answer the question about Schoology, the plan when we adopted Schoology 2 years ago is to extend Schoology through the entire district, but we were rolling it out. We started with 2 years at the high school of PD, and eventually it is going to roll into the middle school and elementary school. We just haven't had the time to do that with the training. It takes a lot to have everyone trained on one learning management system. So that is the plan, is to move Schoology to the lower grades. I did share with the community and the board last week kind of a timeline of what happened with the decisions of reopening schools, and it wasn't an option. We were required, up until last week, we were required to open schools in some form. So we were doing everything that we could do to meet the requirements within the road back plan from the state. There have been a few things that have come up. One thing you mentioned is the staffing. Staffing is a concern. That's one of the things. So I did share the letter that was sent to the county superintendent with the parents and with the board members, and it is on our district website. So if anyone wants to see the exact reason why we were applying to go fully remote, it's there. One of the issues is staffing. In order for a staff member to take a leave through the Families First Coronavirus Act, there is a process that they must go through. So all of them have to go through a specific process. It's getting documentation, it's filling out the forms, it's having meetings with administration. So that's why you're not going to see that reflected on this board agenda, because it's a process and we need to go through the process with each staff member who's putting in for a possible leave, whether it be a medical leave or a leave due to the Families First Coronavirus Act, which has to do with childcare or taking care of a family member that may be affected with coronavirus. So that's number one. The other reasons is PPE. As I've said at all of the parent meetings that we had at the beginning of August, we do have a stockpile of PPE to start the school year. We do not have enough for a long term. So I said at every parent meeting that yes, we had enough to open the school year, but if we ran out, we were going to have to go full remote. So with having this option now to be able to build up our PPE so that we're not going to be stopping and going, which I think would be more detrimental to students, this gives us a chance to order that. And actually, since then, since that letter went out last week, we actually did have one of our biggest orders that had already been placed was actually canceled by the vendor because they do not have the wipes and supplies that we requested. So anything that was on back order that order was now canceled. So that's a bigger concern for us too. So it is the PPE piece, and it is also the HVAC. And I know that Mr. Tufano had, that's one of the reasons he brought in a couple of vendors to our BG&T meeting so that we can take a look at other options for that, making sure that we have what we need in our classrooms. So I hope that answers some of the questions.
Thank you. Next person, please, Mr. Feldman.
Yes, we have Rosina.
Well, let her come up and state her name and address.
I'll unmute you, so just give me 1 second. There we go.
Hi, Roshni Shah, 10 Fieldview Drive. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I just had a question. I was wondering, since we are opening remotely until, middle of November or so, did that change the teacher-student assignment, or did it remain the same, splitting the students that chose hybrid versus those that chose remote, hoping that, the students that chose hybrid can stick together and then hopefully when we do open in mid-November, they would, all be together again. I'm just trying to understand, will the teacher-student assignments change? And also, when it comes to those that, may choose virtual learning for the full year, is there a restriction on how many teachers per student in the classroom? I'm just trying to understand what all of that looks like.
Okay. Dr. Alvin?
Yeah, what grade level are you talking about? Because that's dependent on this answer.
Yep, the elementary schools.
So elementary schools, yes, it may have changed class placements. That's one of the reasons why class placements have not gone out to parents yet, because every time we've had to make a change on our plan, we've had to take a look at scheduling and staffing. So, yes, so those class assignments will be going out by the end of the week for elementary students. I don't understand the question about the number of teachers.
So I was just trying to understand, is there a specific, I guess, cadence to if let's just say there's a group of students that are going remote for the full year, is there, is it 1 to 20, 1 to 30? We're restricted in the classroom because of how big the classroom is, right? But virtually, we don't need to be restricted. So have we put measures in place to restrict it and make it the same class size as in person, or is the sky the limit, I guess is my question.
No, we want to make sure that the teachers are able to support the students in their classroom. So we are trying to keep the class sizes as similar as possible, whether it's remote or whether it's fully remote or whether it's the hybrid.
Okay, great. And do you have like a ratio that we're trying to stick to, or?
There isn't a set number in our district, but we do look across the districts and make sure that we're compatible, comparable across the schools. Usually we try to keep the lower grades to lower numbers, somewhere around 22, 23 in a classroom. When you get up to 4th and 5th grade, we go a little higher, but it truly depends on our enrollment in the school.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Board President, right now we just have one person online. I do want to say, if you do have your hand up from the last public forum, please lower it. In the interest of keeping the meeting going, I won't be able to call on you if you still have it up. We have Jamie Alma. Jamie, you're up.
Hi, it's Jamie Olma, 667A, Spotswood Englishtown Road. First, I just want to say congratulations to Dr. Alvich. My mother-in-law had wonderful things to say working with you through her career. And I'm not going to take up much time. I just wanted to be known to the whole board while we're sitting here discussing this. Our middle school students were made aware that at 6 p.m. tonight they were going to have schedules. Not one single student has a schedule as of this time through Genesis. So you've got 6th, 7th, and 8th graders who spent their whole summer wondering what friends they were going to be with, in turmoil, now sitting at home at 9 o'clock at night, still upset because they don't know who they're going to be able to be in a pod with outside of school. I just want to make the board know that that's very disappointing to parents.
Thank you. That's it, Ms. Feldman. We'll close the public forum now, and we can.
Excuse me, Mr. Ryback, there are a couple more if you wanted to have me unmute them.
All right, go ahead.
We have 2 more that just joined. Mr. Brian Fabiano.
Hi, Brian Fabiano, 19 Patricia Place.
Hi again.
Sad state that we're 2 hours into a meeting and parents are still trying to get clarity on reopening plans, and the priority is not just there. But moving forward, sad moment for most that we had to spend so much time on a contract extension that obviously was not urgent. But my question is, a couple of my questions are for Dr. Alvich. What communities around, what other superintendents are you working with closely? Can you shed any light into other towns that you may be in contact with to further our plan based on some of the ideas they may have? I know Dr. Valesky in East Brunswick has done a phenomenal job to get the East Brunswick schools back on track. I'm amazed that another district so close to us that comparatively with the amount of students and demographics is very close to us, that they've been able to get all the PPE that they need to open. They have the teachers in place. Dr. Valesky presented a very strong plan at the state. I know my wife, as a teacher in the district of East Brunswick, is very proud, based on how they've been able to get things on track. So I'm wondering, are you conferring with districts like East Brunswick, talking to superintendents like Dr. Valesky to understand, what we may be able to emulate here in Monroe? Because I'm unsettled that we're here at the last moment talking about not having enough PPE. Obviously, ordering it now is not going to be an easy endeavor, right? As you are competing with not only school districts but health organizations. That's my business, and we're seeing the tick up in coronavirus cases throughout the health system here in New Jersey again. So you're not just up against other school districts. So what makes us behind the school districts that were able to get all the things in place? That's number one. And again, I'd like to maybe have you shed a little bit of light on who you're talking to further our plan. I know the question was asked about the amount of teachers going out on leave. It seems like the number may be a lot smaller than what was initially anticipated. Obviously, that may change. How are those teachers going to be replaced? Are we having an issue getting substitutes in a pandemic? What are the plans if these teachers don't come back? They have up to 12 weeks, can potentially go further than that under the CARES Act. Very familiar with it. It's my business that I'm in. Are we anticipating, having staff shortages come November that would, prevent this plan from moving forward? So perhaps could you shed a little light on these topics?
Dr. Alvick?
So I meet weekly with all of the superintendents in Middlesex County, and we are all conferring weekly. And I do know that about 90% of the districts in Middlesex County are going fully remote for various reasons. Again, every district is different, so it depends on the district. The PPE order that I mentioned that was canceled was one that was placed several months ago. So it wasn't even a last minute order. This was placed several months ago, and it was just canceled last week. So that's a concern for us. And you're absolutely right. We are, we're out there trying to find this, even to the point where we're looking for tents so that we have something for the overhangs when we were having students come into the buildings in order to do the temperature checks. And we're competing with restaurants who are getting tents for their outdoor dining. So you're absolutely right. So part of our process when we order anything is picking up the phone and calling the companies to find out if they have it in stock and if they'll be able to fulfill it. And then we place the order. So we've been following that process. With regard to staffing, you're right. Some of the staffing may change because some of the staff may choose not to go. Not to take a leave because they're working fully remote. So that may change the number, the original number that was mentioned. But at the time that I said that's how many staff members that had put in interest in looking for a leave of absence for one reason or another. With regard to staffing, we are always looking for staff. We have, for any of our openings, we have many people that apply for our staff. I've been interviewing all summer long to fill any of our positions that are open in the districts, and we'll continue to do so. I don't know what November is going to look like with regard to staff because I don't know the final number of our current staff who may need to take a leave, but we will continue to fill those positions as they open up. We do have subs and we do have people that apply for our positions when we post them.
Thank you. I think we had one more person, Mr. Feldman, and then we'll end the public forum.
Mr. Board President, we have three, and it's up to you if you'd like me to take them. We have first,
okay,
we have Hermit Patel. Hermit, you're up.
Hi, this is actually Venetia Patel, 15 El Dorado Way. I'm here on behalf of the high school students because we are a bit confused on how the new scheduling is going to work, because under the original schedule released to us, there was going to be a 4-hour session while there was also in-person learning, and then a break for lunch and transportation back home, and then the 75-minute PM session. So we would just like a rundown of the daily schedule that high schoolers can expect during this remote period.
Thank you. Dr. Alvick?
Dr. Lehman, do you have that schedule with you?
I don't have the exact times with me, but it's a 4-hour session. They're going to run through, you can run through each of the 4 blocks on an A day and a B day respectively. And you're correct, there's the afternoon session that will have some sort of framework to it. Specific questions regarding your particular schedule, if you email the building principal, he can certainly get back to you, or any of the content supervisors, but it's a traditional 4-hour schedule. Like I said, you have the 4 instructional blocks, and then it's going to be rotating A and B day as it typically does, with the afternoon session after the lunch break in the middle.
Thank you. Next person, Dr. Feldman, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Name and address.
One second, Mr. Board President. We have Lori McGee.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask a question.
Name and address. Lori, please, name and address.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Lori McGee, 17 Red Oak Court.
Well,
I'm going to ask a question that a parent asked just now, but it was just looked over and nobody answered it. And it's pretty simple. The middle school kids, grades 6 through 8, were supposed to get that schedule out at 6 o'clock, and it wasn't put out. So is there a time frame as to when that's coming out?
I don't know, Dr. Alvick or Dr. Lehman, I don't know who's going to take.
I don't know, because I've been in meetings since 5:30, so I'm not sure what happened with the release of the schedule this afternoon.
Same situation. I mean, that's something we can certainly look into. The plan was to release it. Clearly, there was something that was not released appropriately, and we'll follow up to make sure those schedules get out ASAP.
Okay, thank you. Next person, please.
Yes, Mr. Board President, we have Pradeep Malam.
Hi, Mr. President. This is Pradeep Malam, 4 Jake Place.
Hi.
I have a freshman going into the high school, and we received the Genesis. That schedules show me like from 7:27 a.m. to 2 p.m. And later in the day, we received an email saying that the schedule is going to be 7:27 to 11:27. So I request the administration to give us one schedule across the board, and then now I don't know which schedule I need to follow, and I need to make him sit from 7:27 to 2 p.m. or 7:27 to 11:27 p.m. I don't know. That is one thing. The second thing, if we are adopting 4-hour schedule in the same email, I don't see the 75-minute PM session, how it is going to be, or is it available every day, or like only 2 days a week? And that is also not like clear in the email that they sent. So I want these 2 clarifications.
Dr. Lehman, do you want to answer?
So I just pulled up the schedule. So it's 7:27 to 11:27. That's the 4-hour session. Each block has a dedicated period schedule, and then it's A and B rotation. And then the afternoon piece, the students, there's for each period has an allotment of approximately 20 minutes. So that way a student, if they have multiple blocks that they want to check in with their teacher with, they don't have to prioritize one subject over the other. They can go through like a mini schedule in the afternoon.
Thank you. Yep. Mr. Feldman, was that it?
We have state your name and
it's Betty Sabarito, 2 Barrymore Drive. Good evening. I just have a question. Could you explain to me, because I'm still not clear, for the elementary level, what does that schedule look like for live instruction? Is it a minimum amount that each teacher is required, or I'm not really sure what that schedule looks like throughout the day?
You want me to take it?
Dr. Lehman?
Lehman?
Yep. So the goal is to mimic something that happens in the traditional classroom. So the synchronous instruction, semi-synchronous instruction, and asynchronous instruction. I'm going to get into this in my update. We're also going to show the video again. But a typical, let's think of one class period. A typical class period would involve students logging into a class. That would be similar to them, say, walking into the classroom. They'll have an activity to do. And that's mostly an independent activity that's live and presented on the computer screen in front of them. That's like what we would consider a do now in the classroom. Then they would transition into what we would typically consider a mini lesson. If depending on your grade level, that could be a lecture or something like that. That's a synchronous instruction that occurs in real time in a virtual environment. The majority of the instruction in the middle of, just like in a real class, in the middle or a face-to-face classroom, the middle of the period is where the meat of the instruction happens. That's where the teachers are meeting with students in small groups. That's where the teachers can check in with students individually. They can have breakout groups, and again, depending on the grade level, high school to elementary level, the logistics of how that happens will depend on the type of classroom they're in. But that's an opportunity for synchronous instruction in terms of small group interactions or one-on-one live interactions with students. Semi-synchronous instruction, which would be students working on something independently with, live on the screen, with the teacher also being live, almost mimicking when students are working in the classroom and they're working independently, and a student raises their hand and has a question, the student would then unmute themselves, ask the question, and the teacher's there to answer it. And then there's also, and that's an opportunity for the teacher to facilitate an asynchronous activity, something that would be pushed out, the students could log off and engage in offline. So those three kind of types of instruction will occur in the middle part of that lesson. And then as we cycle back to the end, that's pulling people back together. That's the closure of the lesson. And typically that's done in a synchronous environment where you're bringing back your asynchronous learners, your semi-synchronous, and your synchronous instruction, and you're kind of debriefing on the lesson, revisiting everything, and then the period's over, and then students would either log off, go to another class if they're in the high school, middle school, and in the elementary school. That would probably naturally transition into the next subject area. Again, that introductory piece, the anticipatory set. So that's an example of one synchronous, asynchronous, semi-synchronous instruction period, and then multiply that times the course of the day.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Yes, Mr. Board President, we have Jeanne Smith. Jeanne, you're up. Please state your name and address.
Jean Smith, 20 Angelo Court.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Just to follow up on the 4-hour session questions from a minute or two ago, we had reached out to the building principal on that topic a few weeks ago when it was a hybrid approach. And the explanation was that it had to be a 4-hour session because lunch was not being provided in the building. So now that we're going to be fully remote through at least the middle of November, I really would like to understand why we're not doing full 6-hour, less lunch, 6.5 less lunch days of instruction. If you were to go over the course of a full year, that's 60 days that the kids are going to be shortchanged. And that just does not seem appropriate. Thank you.
Dr. Alvick, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I think the whole idea is so that the students have time in the afternoon to meet with teachers that they can get extra help with, and work with their teachers on extra things. To have a student sit in front of the computer for 86 minutes is probably not the best option either. So the teachers will work through the 4 hours in the morning and then do the extra help sessions in the afternoon for any students. So they will be for the full day. It just won't be the full schedule for the day.
Thank you. Mr. Feldman, anyone else, or is that it?
Mr. Board President, at this time, there is no one else.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public forum, and now we'll open to the Assistant Superintendent's report. Dr. Lehman, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I kind of touched on a little bit in one of the previous answers what I was going to highlight during my report. Mr. Feldman, if you could begin to pull up the video. I'm just going to define some of the terms we talked about. We're going to show this video. It's approximately 6 minutes, but I think it's well worth viewing. It's the concepts in it apply K to 12. Foundationally, the structure of the lesson, is similar across the board. It highlights the learning management systems for both Schoology as well as Google Classroom. I'll kind of highlight some of the other tools that the teachers may use in a virtual environment. But just to define synchronous instruction. So synchronous instruction, as I kind of mentioned before, allows the instructor and the students to gather in a real-time virtual environment online in an online meeting format. Usually that's Google Meet, Schoology, conferencing, Zoom is another common the tool that we utilize, and that's where they can engage in instruction in real time. Asynchronous teaching, that's the other side of the spectrum. That's when teachers prepare materials in advance. They push them out to the students in advance, and the students can access them on their own time. Again, there would be a time frame. A teacher could prepare materials in advance, push them out the day before, and instruct the students during a specific time window to engage in that assignment, and then submit the assignment via Schoology or Google Classroom. There are advantages to both synchronous and asynchronous instruction. Synchronous instruction being live, happens in real time. Sometimes as we go through things, keeping up with the real-time instruction becomes challenging for certain students. The asynchronous piece kind of fills the gap in that. A pre-recorded instructional video gives the learner the opportunity to pause, go back, rewatch something, use it as a tool for extra help a little later in the day if they're doing work. It also kind of gives them an opportunity if they're taking notes to kind of go back and listen to something. So again, there's pros and cons. Is the teacher live to respond to a question at that time? No, but it does give the learner kind of some flexibility to engage and revisit things. And then the semi-synchronous teaching, like I mentioned before, the easiest way to visualize what that is if a teacher gives some students, whether it's a group project or an independent activity to work on, the teacher then kind of roams through the room, interacts with students, asks questions, and that's a time when the students can also raise their hand and ask a question. So the semi-synchronous instruction in a virtual environment would be something similar. Students would be working on something, probably with their mics muted, but if they have a question, they unmute their mic, which is equivalent to raising their hand, and the teachers there engage and kind of answer those questions in real time. So those are the kind of three terms you'll hear throughout this video. Mr. Feldman, you can start the video. We're going to have to, we didn't do a test run on this because we did this kind of a last minute piece. So if we have to adjust the volume, we'll restart the video so everybody can hear it. So it's down a little low, Mr. Feldman. I think you might need to turn it up. Same. Still low. We still can't hear it, Mr. Feldman. Try unmuting your computer and then restarting the video.
When our school district shifted instruction on learning arts, compassion and flexibility and uncertainty instruction full year. Outstanding staff and the technology tools in which we have invested are capable of delivering an exemplary education to our students. Over 2.5 years ago, the district selected Schoology as the learning management system by a diverse committee. Through the leadership of Dr. Higgins and the support of Dr. Alvick, a roadmap of professional learning was established so that all high school learning would be conducted through Schoology by September 2020. Over the past 2 years, using the train the trainer model, veteran staff were provided with a full year of professional development experience, while new teachers were offered more compact courses. In September, virtual instruction at the high school will begin in the Schoology platform for every block. No two classes will be the same, but there are elements that will be in common. Teachers will use Schoology to direct students in synchronous teaching or live instruction, either through Schoology conferences or Zoom. Live instruction, however, does not mean a full block of a teacher lecturing and students taking notes. 21st century learning includes collaboration, research, reflection, and practice. Teachers will also use semi-synchronous teaching that take place in the form of breakout rooms for small group interaction, public and private chat logs for questions, and shared notes for clarification. Semi-synchronous teaching might also include collaboration spaces like Google Apps, Flipgrid, Jamboard, and others. A typical class might look like this. Students log into Schoology to asynchronously review the learning objectives and find out where to go for live synchronous instruction. In this case, students are directed to join Schoology conferences for live instruction. Students engage in a mini lesson to gain new knowledge, practice a process that the teacher models, or complete an assessment based on previously acquired knowledge. Then students might move to small group collaboration in breakout rooms, partner research, or independent practice while the teacher remains available for individual questions. Finally, the class moves back to the larger group to debrief, summarize, or check for understanding. Ultimately, they return back to Schoology where they can see any additional assignments or other supporting materials. This model is not different from traditional classroom experiences. We're just using different tools. For example, instead of the teacher in a classroom asking students to move their desks into pairs or groups with neighbors, the teacher can have a list of student partners or groups in a spreadsheet, share it to their screen, and direct students to join a virtual breakout group online. While instruction may look and feel a little different based on each teacher's style and curriculum, Schoology will be where learning begins and concludes, where assignment due dates are posted, links to resources can be found, and important dates like project and assessment dates are posted. Students may need to use apps outside of Schoology to ultimately complete an assignment, but this learning management system will make it easier for students to take of their learning and complete activities timely. We have only begun to scratch the surface of Schoology's capabilities. It has the flexibility to modify and differentiate instruction to students by using grading groups when we individually assign. Within a course, members of the course can be identified as belonging to any type of grading group. This grading group might be a group of students that need special accommodations or are just grouped to do a specific activity together. As we shift gears towards elementary and middle school education, there are many similarities in approach. The only difference really is that using the Google Classroom Learning Management System. Google Apps for Education is familiar and comfortable for staff and students and provides the tools needed for this grade band. Students in elementary and middle school will start their day in Google to find announcements, learning materials, and instructional information in the classroom stream. Classes will then participate in live instruction, which will vary teacher to teacher as synchronous or semi-synchronous through Google Meet or alternatively Zoom. Lessons might include modeling new content, engaging student participation through visual cues, providing opportunities to practice new knowledge, and even allowing students to share the screen with their peers. Google Classroom can also meet unique learner needs. Assignments will be customized for the student. 5+ years of professional development provided to the teaching staff in Google Classroom and Google Apps for Education, we have a good foundation. Lessons learned over the past 6 months are valuable experiences that have helped shape the professional learning that will be offered to staff as we open. We are well positioned to leverage the tools and knowledge that are in place and to continue to evolve the teaching and learning practices in the Monroe Township virtual classroom.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. So we're going to share this, like I stated in the curriculum committee meeting. We'll have it on the website, the district website, so it can be viewed. We'll also have this pushed out, the link pushed out, so families will have a direct link to it via email. It's a generalized reference, and that's what the goal of this was, to share high school and elementary, middle school experiences, kind of set a baseline for expectations. Teacher to teacher, things will vary, class to class, subject to subject. I just wanted to, to make clear that there's going to be a balance of the synchronous, semi-synchronous, and asynchronous instruction, because all of them have an appropriate placement within the virtual instruction. Like I said, there's pros and cons to all of those virtual environments. Now, to further support the staff in rolling this out and implementing this to fidelity, we have a tremendous amount of professional development opportunities queued up for them the first 4 days of the school. Embedded within that is collaboration time as well. As we talked about in the curriculum committee meeting, K-8, we've had our blended learning remote resource teams working together to develop basically pacing guides, digital resources, quick access materials to help students, regardless of what school they're in, regardless of what class they're in, because not being in the school, the teachers can't walk across the classroom to say, hey, how did this lesson go today on Monday, you know, get feedback from their peers. So having a common document to keep them together in sync will help us if we have to transition to other environments. If we come back to school and there's a need for changing a student's placement or something like that, we want similar experiences in all classes so that those transitions can be seamless. We also have professional development that's threaded throughout the year. Specifically, we just worked on setting up some coaching opportunities in language arts for the third week in September. We'll have consultants on board that will support the teachers in a readers and writers workshop environment in a full remote mode. And that's something, you know, professional development, as much as we say we need it right now, we need it to be sustained throughout the year. And that's something we have, you know, we have math consultants on board for the rest of the year. We have an October 12th full day professional development day that we planned in the spring with real-time needs when we were in the thick of things in the spring semester. We had the teachers develop their own personalized plans, their own projects to work on based on what they knew they needed at that moment. And then we also have some classes that we're offering as well. We've taken some of those classes, we're going to modify some of them and bring them to some of the first days of school as well to support them there. We have technology trainings on Clever, on Cami, on Nearpod. We have screencasting training. So there's a plethora of support for the teachers. We also want to be responsive to. So as their needs arise, you know, we can also pull things together. You know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get into it, especially with the way the technology changes and new opportunities and things. So we're prepared to support the teachers along the way. You know, I know they did absolutely the best in the situation we were in the spring, and we're thankful for everything they did and appreciate all the work they put in. And we're looking forward to the remote product that we're going to put out this first marking period, and looking forward to supporting the staff and everything they do.
Thank you, Dr. Lehman.
Yep.
Does any member have a question for Dr. Lehman? Please call out if you do. Not hearing anyone. Thank you very much. And now we can move to our superintendent's report. Dr. Alvick.
So I want to start with a congratulations this evening to Nancy Mitrasak on her upcoming retirement. She's going to be retiring as of December 1st. Nancy has headed our food service department for the past 21 years and worked with the food service department in our district prior to that. So she has been working with our district for 37 years. And I want to thank Nancy for her service and wish her a long and healthy retirement.
Yes.
I know Dr. Lehman kind of went over all of the reopening plans, and we are continuing to push those out and share those with families. But as you know, the ever-changing requirements that we continue to receive from the New Jersey Department of Education and the Governor's Office require us to closely monitor the plans. But our goal remains to keep our students and our staff as safe as possible and to continue our students learning to the standard that we all expect. So as you know, I have applied to the state to start all remote next week. All of the documents that I have sent to the county that I have shared with parents are on our district website. So they are there for everyone to view with all of the reasons outlined. So please please visit our website to get all of the most updated information. I truly believe that the fully virtual option for the beginning of the school year is our safest option. And up until the end of last week, it wasn't an option. The original guidance required that all school districts open with in-person learning. And I do understand that having children at home full-time may create undue burden on families, and we will do our best as a school district to support families. So to that end, we are creating a committee in our district that will partner with George, who's a licensed marriage family therapist, who is also known throughout New Jersey as an energetic, engaging speaker. He works with the New Jersey Loss Coalition, and he's worked with our district in the past. So he's going to work with our district committee to create an action plan to support parents and students through this challenging time. And more information will be coming out on a parent evening coming up in September. Schools will be sharing out their specific information about class placements and virtual day will look like this week. Again, as you just heard from Dr. Lehman, we have clear expectations for all parents, students, and staff of what the virtual learning will look like. First day of school for for students will remain as September 3rd. September 3rd and 4th will be 4-hour sessions for students. That means there will not be any afternoon sessions for students. This will give us more time for that professional development that Dr. Lehman just mentioned. The calendar revisions are on the board agenda this evening. Again, if parents have specific questions about their child's schedule, expectations for remote learning, or safety guidelines, please reach out to your child's principal, Dr. Lehman, and me. We are responding to every question and phone call that we receive and trying to do it as quickly as we can. So to the board agenda, it's recommended that the board approve the attached personnel items A through AN as in Nancy.
So moved.
Is that Kathy?
Yes.
Do I have
Yes.
a second?
Second.
Ms. Arminio, second. Gorski?
I have a question for Dr. Alvick, please. Before
I'm sorry.
Dr. Alvick, I know with the remote learning, with the 100% remote learning, the state now has requirements as to the reasonings for it. I don't know if they have that you have to fill out a report or you have to just create one.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. You cut out there for a second.
Okay, so the question is, now that we have fully remote learning, it's my understanding that the state requires an explanation from each district as to why and what we're doing. Is that the report you suggested you sent in already?
Yeah, well, the state is supposed to be releasing an application, which they have not released yet. But I did submit a letter to the county superintendent last week, and that letter was also shared with families. It was shared with the board members in an email last week, and it is on our district's website. So the state has not released the application yet, but I did send a letter to the county superintendent.
Okay, so we have not sent it into the state, is that correct?
It wouldn't go into the state. It would go to the county superintendent.
And then, I mean,
he would then report it to the state. It doesn't go directly to the state. It goes to the county superintendent.
Okay, because the governor was suggesting that in one of his TV sessions that like there were only 240 plans that they have reviewed out of over 500. Are we one of those plans, or is that prior to this new 100% remote learning?
Well, there's actually two sections here. So I submitted a plan. I submitted the reopening plan at the beginning of August. I think it was the first weekend in August 1st or 2nd. That was the original plan that was submitted. So I don't know what he was referencing. I watched the press conference when he said it, and I wasn't sure which one he was referencing. But that original plan was submitted the first weekend in August when it was required to be submitted, and then the revised letter was sent last week.
Okay, so then you are still anticipating an application regarding the 100% remote learning?
Yeah, the county superintendent did tell us this morning at our meeting, because we had a meeting this morning, that we're still expected to get an application. So but that we have not received yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Dr. Alvin? Ms. Kalapanowicz? You're muted.
I had to unmute myself. It's not a question, but I would like to congratulate Nancy Mitrasak on her retirement and wish her the best of luck. She deserves to have some really good free time and some happiness. She's been working very hard. I don't think anybody has any idea what food service involves in our district, but she's been an important part of what we've done here, and she definitely will be missed. I met her when I was the Barclay Brookside PTA many, many years ago, and we've always stayed friendly. And she's one of the most well-liked and sincere and just wonderful people you'll ever want to meet. So I just, again, want to congratulate her and wish her the best.
Thank you. Any other board member with a question for Dr. Albert? Call out, please. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote, Mr. Gorski.
Yes, sir. Mr. Tufano?
Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Mayo?
Yes.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes.
Ms. Siegel?
Yes.
Ms. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Pelori?
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky?
Yes.
And Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through N has passed.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And for
I beg your
board
pardon,
action, it's,
I beg your pardon, personnel items A through AN has passed.
Yes.
thank you. And for board action items, it's recommended that the board approve the board action items A through M as in Michael by roll call.
That's someone moving?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Tufano, second. Okay.
Yes.
Any comments? Questions? Okay, let's vote.
Ms. DeMayo?
Yes.
Ms. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Pelori?
Yes.
Mr. Tufano?
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky?
Yes.
Mr. Nicotinsky?
Yes.
Ms. Siegel?
Yes.
Any of them?
Couldn't hear you, Mr. Gorski.
Ms. Arminio?
Oh, did not hear you. Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through M has passed.
Thank you. Now we
And that
move on.
concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Albert. Mr. Gorski, Business Administrator's report.
Yes, sir. Ms. Arminio did a fine job covering a lot of the financial topics that are on the Business Administrator's report tonight for board action. So I'm gonna be brief. And this is gonna be another one of those emotional moments. But working with Nancy Mitrosek for the past 37 years, she served this district, and I've had the pleasure of working with her for 21 of those. Attest that she is simply the best at her position. I've met other food service directors through obvious interaction through the county and so on. There is nobody like Nancy Mitrosek. She consistently provides the most attractive and healthy meals. Our food service participation, our food service program has unparalleled low-cost lunches. We have been the lowest in the county for decades. Yet we have the very highest student participation ratios because our lunches are served in an attractive manner with kiosks that put most colleges to shame. This is a very sad moment because with Mr. Washington and Ms. Mitrosek leaving, they are both irreplaceable, in my opinion. Every day Ms. Mitrosek came to work, no matter her challenges, excuse me, she always brought her A game. So my hats off to Nancy. It was difficult. Forgive me. May God bless both Mr. Washington and Ms. Mitrosek in their well-deserved retirements. That said, Mr. Board President, I would like now to present board action items A through N under the Business Administrator's report for consent roll call.
Okay, someone move it, please.
So moved. Andy.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second it.
Second, any questions? All right, Mr. Gorski, you could vote.
Thank you. Mr. Tufano. Tufano.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. DeMayo.
Yes.
Ms. Arminio.
Yes.
Ms. Siegel.
Yes, but I do believe I need to recuse on J.
You do.
So noted. Ms. Koloponowicz.
Yes, but I need to recuse on letter J.
Thank you. Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
Mr. Pelori.
Yes, recuse on J.
Mr. Nicotinsky.
Yes.
And Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr.
Board
Gorski,
President.
Mr. Gorski, this is Michelle Arminio. I believe I am noted in J as well. So if it's appropriate, I'll recuse.
Okay, thank you. So noted. Mr. Board President, board action items A through N has passed. And that concludes my
Okay.
report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gorski. Now's my board president report. As we move forward towards the opening of our school year in a remote environment during these unprecedented times, here's my message for the community. We're still in uncharted waters. Please allow our district administration, principals, and teachers to do their jobs. They are educators and have all our children's best interests at heart. Remote learning is now for everyone, so let's work together to make this as good as it can be. Social media plays a part here as well because many people believe what they read without fact checking. When you have a question, please email your school's administration. Follow the chain of command. Get your answers from the source, as social media can have a lot of misinformation. I ask for your understanding of our dilemma and support our superintendent and board during this time. I'd just like to tell the board that next month, I've asked Mary Ann Friedman from New Jersey School Boards to come here and facilitate us on working on the board and district goals. And that will be next month. I also would like to congratulate Nancy Mitrosak and Reggie Washington. Reggie does a great job with technology. And Nancy, a fantastic job with food services. I think Mr. Gorski said it all. I think we'll all miss you. You're both a credit to this district and all the kids that we serve, and we'll certainly miss you all. All right, thank you. I guess we could move on now to the open public forum. You have 4 minutes. Now you're not limited to the agenda. So, Mr. Feldman.
Mr. Board President, are you skipping over the other board business?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, I did, and I didn't mean to. We have other board business. Thank you very much both for reminding me. Okay. Mrs. Albanowicz?
Yes. So tonight I'd like to speak about 2 ethics complaints that have been filed against me recently. The first one is a complaint made by Anthony Prezioso that was filed on March 12, 2020, stating that I violated 8 of the Code of Ethics for school board members. The School Ethics Commission met on July 21st, 2020 to consider the complaint. And I received word yesterday that the commission voted to grant the motion to dismiss in its entirety. On August 6, 2020, I received another complaint from a member of the public who will remain nameless until the process is completed. I am represented by an out-of-district council. So I wish to read the following. In an effort to be fully transparent with the community, I offer the following statement with regard to an ethics complaint that was recently filed against me. I have served this board and the Monroe community for 21 years. My guiding principle has always been to do what's right. I have accepted that some may disagree and be upset with how I vote or speak. It is, of course, the right of every person to disagree. I have tolerated such disagreement even when it has been filled with personal insult and accusation, with the resolve that I have always acted ethically and justly. My board actions today, yesterday, and tomorrow have been and will be similarly principled. I will continue to serve this community fearlessly as a board member. While I will not comment now or during the pendency of the ethics complaint on the specific allegations, I am confident that the outcome will once again be in my favor. There have been a number of ethics complaints filed against me over the past few years, and every single one of them have been dismissed in their entirety. What the public needs to know is that every time a board member is served with an ethics complaint, they are entitled to legal counsel paid for by the school district. Before being covered by insurance, there is a $5,000 deductible for each complaint served to a board member. And this can add up to be quite a bit of money that can be utilized in other areas if multiple board members receive complaints from the public. in the past, when I have had ethics charges dismissed against me, I have also mentioned this to the public. So I felt I needed to do this again. But that at this point, that's all I really have to say about the past ethics complaint and the current one that I'm going through. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes. Go ahead, Ruben.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to share also, I also had an ethics charge filed against me back on March 13th by a member of the community. He also included in that affidavit by a current member of the community, who's actually running for seat on the Board of Ed this year. There were a few complaints in this charge, and all of them were dismissed in their entirety by the Ethics Commission on June 23rd. So I just wanted to share that also. And one other thing I just wanted to mention, I just want to thank our administration for a phenomenal job that they're doing for the restart this year. I am honored to work with and support with this amazing team, and I'm wishing all the school district and students a great start to the school year.
Thank you. Any other board member?
Mr. President, this is Andy Pelori. First, let me start off by thanking Sam and Purnima Wallabadini for their generous gift to our school district. I have known them for some time, and I think what I learned working with Dory and Adam Lehman is the fact that we want to provide equipment, whether it's a Chromebook or an iPad, to all the students who are in need for it. And I was really assured, and I take satisfaction in the fact that the school is providing such equipment to anybody who has asked for. I have not met Nancy Metrosak, but I have heard enough about her, so I wish her congratulations in her retirement. A couple of things that came up during the public speaking that Dory did not finish the year as expected in the goals. But I would not hold COVID against Dory either. There are some issues identified when we had the outside attorneys come and look at the issues that were posted in the past. One of the couple of other things that we heard, and I would like to get some clarification in terms of the agenda postings. I'm not sure why there is a confusion in terms of that. But the bottom line is, and I know that majority of the people who are still on the call are really waiting to hear. I think a lot of information has been provided today. I think continuing with our communication protocol to make sure that the people are hearing what's going on with the school district on a fairly regular basis is extremely important. There's no such thing as over communication, especially during this pandemic. So I appreciate every effort that the school district administration has done so far, and I request them to continue to do so moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pelori. Any other board member? All right, well, I'm also going to read something because I'm also brought up on ethics charges. So I'd like to read this. It's costing the district quite a bit of money. In an effort to be fully transparent with the community, I offer the following statement with regard to an ethics complaint that was recently filed against me. I have served this board and the Monroe community faithfully with an absolute commitment to doing what I believe is best for the school district, its students, staff, and all stakeholders. I will continue to do that throughout my term. While I will not comment now or during the pendency of the matter on specific allegations that pertain only to my interpretation of relevant ethics and public school employment laws, I am confident that my consistent adherence to protecting confidential executive session discussions and the privacy interests of the district personnel will be fully vindicated through the legal process. That's all I have to say. I guess there's no one else.
Steve, I have something.
Okay, Jill.
It's Jill.
Yes, I see.
I just want to congratulate Nancy Mitrosak on her retirement and thank her for her 37 years of service to the students of this district. She's a wonderful human being, and I hope she has an amazing retirement.
Thank you. I guess we can move on now to the public forum. I apologize for overseeing the other board business. Members of the public, you're free to speak on any topic now. 4 minutes, and please state your name and address.
Hello, Mr. Board President. We have Chrissy Skirby. Chrissy, you're up.
Go ahead, Ms. Skirby.
She may have lost connection there. I do see that she may have lost connection. Mr. Board President, we're going to Prakash Paral.
Okay. Prakash, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, President. Thank you all. It is good that we have short meeting. First, thank Nancy and all the retiring people. I think we should have a separate web of the pictures of our commitment of our retirers and admire them. Thank you. My son is going to biomedical engineering. I'm so proud of Monroe Township School District. We have challenges, but I'm so proud of. Politics, guys.
Congratulations to that.
Yeah, thank you. Politics, guys, I don't want to take time. If you want to challenge, I'm a civic servant. You want to challenge Kathy, I told you, you fired Kozak. I'm ready to talk to you. Anyway, I don't want to take that time because this is not a time to talk about politics. It's time to talk about children. First, this is President Rebecca. This is a serious question. Bipolar ionization. Is it FDA approved? I want to take my 4 minutes or 5 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever. Is it FDA approved?
I'm not sure. If I remember, maybe Mr. Tufano might remember. I think it would be all FDA approved. Mr. Tufano, do you remember if that?
Yeah, I seem to recall him telling us they had an FDA approval for the coronavirus killing, but not the ultraviolet.
Right. Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. What I want is more details because there are Shicocam. Another one is coming up. It is approved by FDA in United States as well as in Europe. What I want is protection of the. I have worked in ionization. I have worked in sterilizing lab. I have worn PPEs. I have worked in sterile labs. I went and manufacture injectable. I was in charge of manufacturing technology. I know everything. What I want is most important is protect our children, protect community. So separately, I will send a note to Dr. Alvich and Dr. Lehman and copy you, President, and our Tufano. So I want to get more details. I don't want to take time about that. So thank you all. Good candid discussion. Let us not fight. I want unity in the town. Let us be united. Let us go on the data and let us be united. That's my request. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Good request. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Board President, Chrissy Skirby.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, Chrissy Skirby, 21 Preakness Drive. I just wanted to comment on the resignation of Patrick Comey. I wanted to wish him all the best in his new endeavors. Mr. Comey has been a very beloved teacher at the high school. He has had an impact on many, many students throughout the years. His service here to Monroe is second to none. And I think it goes to say that, again, we are losing quality staff to other districts. We need to find a way in Monroe Township to retain our teachers. Not being able to renegotiate teacher contracts is a huge issue here for us. It's just another incredible teacher that we're losing. And I want to wish Mr. Comey all the best. I know that he had an incredible impact on my son that he will always remember. He's taught him a lot of life lessons, and these are the type we want our children to come in contact with. These are the teachers that really provide what they need to excel and to become successful in their futures. So again, congratulations, Mr. Comey. And I think it's, another wake-up call for this district to find a way to retain our teachers. We lose them year after year after year to other districts. We have to find a way to retain them. And I just wanted to say something about the ethics. I've not filed any on anyone currently, but there seems to be a lot of ethics charges being filed against the board. It speaks volumes. If the community has that many issues that they can't seek restitution for without going to the ethics commission, it's sad, and it speaks a lot for this board. And I think it goes back to the transparency and to really understanding what your roles are as board members, and maybe trying to figure out how to better serve the population of Monroe Township. Because when people feel that they have nowhere else to go and that you've wronged them, and that they have to take it to the ethics commission, that's sad. And it speaks volumes on what's happening in our board. And that really, you need to work on that, because that's all on you. That's not on the community. That's all. Thank you.
I'd just like to add to that, though, that if you heard, the ethics charges have all been dismissed. A minor pending, but people in the community have a right to bring up people on charges, but the board, administrators, whatever, have a right to do what they think is best for the community and doing their job correctly. And so far, the board has been substantiated in their feelings by the Ethics Commission. All right, next person.
Mr. Board President, we have Brian Fabiano.
Brian, welcome again.
Can you hear me? Yep, I'm here.
Yes, hi, Brian. Welcome.
Brian Fabiano, 19 Patricia Place.
Yes.
I want to leave you guys with a quote tonight. Famous quote by JFK. Let's not ask what our country can do for us, but what we can do for our country. You know, everything you hear tonight is me, 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 me. We just went through an orchestrated, collaborated mob hit here where everybody talked about their ethics complaints. Me, 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 me. Why I'm innocent. Why it's costing the district money. Why people have concerns about me. Me, me, me. When are we going to focus on the kids? Everything is about me, me, me. We didn't talk about Mr. Gorski's ethics complaint. We didn't talk about other things, but everything is always an orchestrated show. It's all showmanship for the public. When we're almost 3 hours into a meeting and people still don't have their kids' schedules, still don't have a plan, still holes in the plan. Dr. Alvich laid it out. We still don't have PPE. We still need things. We don't know when we're going to get it. And all we want to do is sit and talk about me, me, me. Think about the quote. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. And quite honestly, I'm glad that 2 of you are not running again in November. Don't sit here when kids are suffering and parents are wondering how they're going to make a living and talk about yourselves. Talk about the kids. Don't talk about people who are going to be running in November. Think about where we are now. You should be ashamed. Have a good evening.
Well, I thought we've been talking about the kids. We certainly have spent a lot of time on the kids. We had a demonstration of what we're going to be doing with virtual learning. We've had committee reports, what we're doing with the schools, what we're doing with curriculum. People when we talk about orchestrated, sometimes I think some of these ethics charges have been a little orchestrated. So I think that we're not deserving of all of this. Sometimes it's, there's 2 sides to a story. Okay, anyone else there?
Yes, Mr. Board President, as of now, I see 4 more people. We have Betty Saab.
Okay. Welcome, Betty. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Thank you. Your name is?
Betty Savarito, 2 Barrymore Drive. I want to ask some questions. Education, as you know, I'm the leader of the Special Education Parent Advisory Group, and I have some questions from parents. And I apologize because I did ask this before, but it's still not clear. Can somebody clarify if there is a minimum amount of synchronous instruction time per day? And then also, what does the day look like for special education targeted more towards the self-contained classrooms? Those are my questions.
Dr. Lehman, is that you?
Well, I can start with that one. There is no minimum number. The teachers are expected to be connecting with students during that 4-hour session in the morning. But as Dr. Lehman went through, it may be a full class. It may be small group. It may be the students working and the teacher being available on there. So no, there's no minimal number because it's going to depend on the teacher and the classroom and the students in the classroom. But the teacher is expected to be connecting with the students for that 4-hour session. So it's not going to be just the teacher teaching for 4 hours. It's going to look different in the self-contained classes, obviously.
Right.
Students have different needs in those classes. I know you have a meeting next week with CPAG, and I know we've set up a meeting already to discuss this more with Ms. Ruella and Mr. Clown also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Board President, we have Jennifer Romeo.
Jennifer?
Hi, yes, 14 Tall Oaks. I think it's really a shame certain public figures are spending all of our tax dollars on all of these ridiculous ethics charges. I mean, I'm a taxpayer here in town, and I've had it. I mean, we're spending way too much on these bogus charges. They have all been dismissed. They are all filed by a certain group of people that are in town that are collaborating together with board members. And now we have friends of these board members that are running for the board because they want to take control. We need to give our teachers contracts. So let's save the money. Stop filing all these ethics charges. It's absolutely ridiculous. Our teachers deserve to get a contract. Let's all be grown-ups about this, and let's run the Board of Education the right way. This is the only town that I have ever seen where this board is an absolute disgrace, and it really does need to change.
Okay. Anyone else, Mr. Feldman?
A couple more as of now, Mr. Board President. We have Sarah Aziz.
Okay.
Sarah?
Welcome.
Hi. Hello. I'm Sarah Aziz.
Sarah, I need the name and address, please.
Yes. Sarah Aziz, 3 Lancelot Drive. I am, as a taxpayer, I am also very concerned about how much it is costing our school district to defend against these ethics charges that are all being dismissed. I think that's money that could be better spent on our students and teachers. So I don't know if you have a figure for that or any kind of estimate, because I'd be interested in that figure. But I also want to talk about the remote learning. I understand that the decision to go with 100% learning was very difficult. I understand how difficult it must be for administrators to plan in an environment with ever-changing state regulations and federal guidance. Just a few days ago, the CDC changed its guidelines for school reopenings. I know other schools have opted to have both a hybrid and 100% remote learning option, but I don't know what their budgets are like, and if they necessarily have enough PPE for the long haul. I don't know how many of their staff people have requested family leave. I know that PPE and air filters are ordered, with many school districts ordering them from a very limited number of suppliers, resulting in delays. The schools that will reopen may be forced to close again because they run out of PPE or can't find supplies. I don't want to be specific about those school districts. I can't comment on them. I do know that remote learning will pose an enormous challenge to me personally here in Monroe, because I'm the mother of a significantly disabled 7th grader who requires in-person instruction, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and other supports. She doesn't always cooperate for remote learning, oftentimes simply refusing to sit in front of the computer. These school closures are devastating for her. I'm doing my best to at least slow or prevent the regression as much as I can. And I'm wondering what will be done to prepare her and other students like her for when school reopens. Will they get some sort of compensatory services? And if so, what would that look like?
Dr. Alvick, you want to?
Mr. Ryback, I hesitate to answer specific questions about specific students, but I can talk in generalities about our special education students. Our special education students will get all of the services that they are required to get based on their IEP. I know that Mrs. Ruella and Mr. Flaum are looking at the possibility of bringing students into the school once school starts in September on a one-on-one basis to get some of those services, if the parents are willing and if they can bring them to the school. So we are looking at some options for some of our students.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Feldman.
As of now, just one, Mr. Board President. We have Ghazala Bora. Ghazala, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Ghazala Bora, 1 Miko Drive.
Hi, Ghazala.
Good evening, Steve and everybody else. I have 2 questions. The first one is for Dr. Lehman. This is regarding the remote learning. We just got the schedules. I just want to understand this better, that now that we're 100% virtual, why could we not have a full day of school, and why does the learning end typically by 12:30 is what I've been looking at the schedule. So that was my first question. My second question, Mr. President, is to you. My observance of the last few meetings has been that when people come up to the public forum and talk, they do use their 4 minutes and they ask questions. I have seen a pattern of ignoring the questions and moving on to the next speaker. Is there some sort of a policy that ensures that the people's questions get answered? I know there are a lot of complaints. We've been hearing a lot of complaints from the public in the public forum, but in those complaints are questions. And I'm specifically talking about the last meeting where people stayed up really late and had a lot of questions on remote learning. And I know the board meeting went on really long, but there were
Yes.
parents who had logged in for the very first time to a board meeting because they were so desperate for answers, and those questions were completely ignored. It just doesn't serve the purpose of joining the public forum if you don't get answers at that point of time. Thank you so much.
Let me respond to that question. To me, it's a difficult situation in a way because you're limited to 4 minutes, which is really a very generous amount of time, and that it would include any response from the administration or the school board. I might recommend, not that we don't want the people to come to school board meetings and ask questions, but if you have an involved question, you may want to ask the building principal directly, or if you can't get the answer there, then go to central administration, either call or do something in writing. I know Dr. Alvik and Dr. Lehman have been doing a yeoman's job in responding to emails they're getting from parents. So they may want to consider that. That way they'll have their complete answer and they won't have to stay up late doing it either. But I know it's a problem. Now, the first part of our question, is that Dr. Alvik? Is that for you? She had
Dr.
Lehman?
Yeah, I can take it.
Okay.
It was broken up a little bit, but I think the essence of the question was about the length of the school day and the decision to maintain a shortened 4-hour schedule. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a combination of factors. Dr. Alvik spoke earlier about managing screen time for students and not having them on from say 8 to 2 or 8 to 3 in the afternoon consecutively with just a simple lunch break in the middle. There's some logistical things that we're doing with staff in terms of common planning embedded in there with their lunch breaks and things. And it also provides us flexibility moving ahead, not knowing what's in front of us in terms of hybrid remote schedules and an extension of a full remote piece. It allows us flexibility to minimize changes moving forward as we try and give ourselves, like I said, the core of all our planning this summer was flexibility, minimal impact on the students' daily day, get them in routines, not start stop, try not to change classes, minimize disruption and things like that. So that's really the essence of all of our planning for the summer.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Feldman.
Looks like 2 more on the list, Mr. Board President. We have Pradeep Malam.
All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Pradeep. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Name and address.
Pradeep Malam, 4 Jake Place. I have like a 2-part question. The first part is for administration. We received so much of donation for a Chromebooks, and there was an email sent out, a survey sent out, whoever in need for Chromebook or any technology that board will provide. But one catch is some people or some parents are concerned is there will be only one Chromebook or only one Chromebook per household. And if there are 2 kids and both are attending elementary or one is attending middle and elementary, then the question is how they are going to share the same Chromebook at the same time. That is one question. The second question is, everybody is talking about the ethics charges, and you guys are cleared about. But everybody swept under the rug is who plead guilty on the same ethics charges, and out of 100 cases, even 1 is proven guilty. That's the fight the people will do, and that's the law that we are going to follow it up.
Okay.
I can address the technology piece.
Okay.
So in terms of supporting technology, the goal is to have every student have their own device to be able to facilitate instruction without having to share. The purpose of the survey that went out was to ask parents if they have a device at home, is that device available for the student to engage in the remote instruction, or is it a shared device? If that device at home is able to be the primary device for the student to learn, then we wouldn't provide them a device. If that's like, you know, the parent's work computer or something, then that's off the table, and we would provide that student a device. The same thing would happen in multi-child households. So if there are 2 children and there's only 1 device, we can support that second child with the device. So if there are families that need a device to support, you know, a primary device to support remote instruction, reach out to the building principal. They have the screening process to go through, and we can support. We have the devices and the technology to be able to support that. In addition to, once we get our devices that we have on order, or we in the process of ordering, as soon as we get those in, we can expand and even begin replacing some other devices that our families have. Currently, we don't have a device for every student. We do not have a one-to-one. We talked about this in some of the committee meetings. We're heading in that direction, which is why we have to kind of have a filtering piece at this point. But I'll make it extremely clear: if there's a student that doesn't have a device, or if there's a family that's sharing devices between students, reach out to your building principal, and they will get everybody in touch with the IT department. We did yesterday and today. We did device distributions. So the primary device distributions are done, but we can certainly pull devices together and support the students at home. Everyone should have a device to work on individually.
Thank you, Dr. Lehman.
Yep.
Anyone else? Mr. Feldman?
Mr. Board President, one more on the list. As of now, we have James Stump. James, please state your name and address. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, James. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to make more of a statement than a question. I watched in March as things were shut down, and without getting into whether or not it was a legitimate or reasonable thing to do at the time, I watched in horror as my 3 children went from 6.5 hours of instruction a day to 4 hours within 2 to 3 days of the actual shutdown because of some bogus reasons of it being too hard or whatever for whoever it was too hard for them to be there for the whole 6.5 hours. Then I watched in more horror as my children were done with their school day in about 30 to 40 minutes a day. Hoping and praying that this summer you guys would get your act together, figuring how could things be this messed up. Well, after watching this, whatever you want to call your meeting tonight, I kind of understand the dysfunction and absolute failure of this committee here is astounding. You start the night off talking about Dr. Alvich's unnecessary raise 1 year into her service, where she's already making above average salary for a superintendent, and she's a brand new superintendent at that, and she has a job to lead a district. Well, what I witnessed as a parent, she was not leading a district very well. Her teachers were failing my children terribly. And you do this conveniently before you get into the finances of the district, where you conveniently mention $1 million finance loan that you're going to take out, granted at just over 1%, but things that people might want to know before they understand why we're going and giving someone a raise that really is not needed. What's a couple $1,000s in order to keep a good person? I think someone quoted. It's appalling. As someone who's been a businessman and who's run a business, you're just throwing our money as taxpayers away without regard to how hard we're working, especially now when so many are out of work or working for reduced pay. So we have these teachers working 36% less in a day on a 4-hour day instead of 6.5. They're not taking a pay cut, but we are. We have people unemployed. Teachers aren't unemployed. It's a slap in the face to all the taxpayers out there. You mentioned that it's not ideal for them to sit in front of a computer for a full 6.5-hour day, but all I hear is it's the teachers that don't want to do it is what I'm getting out of this. We're working so hard to make it the best for the kids. No, the best for the kids is being educated. So a child who's up to speed gets a 4-hour day And then the other afternoon session is for asking questions. Well, if my child doesn't have to ask any questions, then she's just been cheated out of a third of her education. It's mind numbing, honestly, that you are the people in charge of my child's education system. And quite honestly, the person who's been at the forefront of all of this, Dory Alvidge, I've been staring at the top of her head the entire night. At least pretend to actually care what the people in your district are having to say. You've been staring at whatever's down there writing on the piece of paper. I mean, it's just another slap in the face that I understand. We come on here, we make comments, none of it's going to matter because all of the decisions are made behind the scenes before anybody can even say a word. And it's disgusting. And then you have the audacity to come on and smile while telling us, oh, stop filing ethics charges because it's costing the district money. Really? We all know how high the bar is to actually win an ethics complaint. So the fact that all of them are dismissed doesn't mean anything. I mean, please, we have seen so many ethics charges in the public that everybody knows the person is guilty of sin and they get away with it. So just the simple fact that it was dismissed doesn't mean that it wasn't a useful tool. So I would just say, I agree with a lot of the other people. You need to take a long look in the mirror because you guys are doing a very poor job.
Time is up. I believe that's it, Mr. Feldman. I just want to respond as far as the cost of Dr. Albert's contract. I said before, next year she's asked for a zero increase. This contract is costing no more than the original one. As a matter of fact, financially, it's a better deal for the public. As far as the school system, this school system is ranked one of the best in the state. And certainly by a number of ranking companies. U.S. News is one. Am I saying it right? If I say niche, I can never say that correctly, but that's another one. We're one of the best school districts. People are looking to move into Monroe because of the quality of our schools, and our teachers are fabulous. Sure, we want to give them a contract. I'm not talking about the contract now. I'm talking about the quality of our teachers and their honesty and love for education and their desire to give the kids the best possible education. I see how hard they work. I go into the schools. I see what they're doing now with virtual learning and their desire to give the kids the best possible education that they could give. I think it's just a sad thing to hear what I heard because it's just not true. Okay, enough said. We now
Steve, this is Andy. Can I ask one quick question regarding the equipment and also while people are still on the call? Mr. Lehman, it's my understanding that every student who requested a Chromebook or an iPad did receive one, correct?
Anybody who went through the screening process and met the screening process has one assigned to them. We had pickups yesterday and today. We still have 100 devices to be delivered to the homes or to be picked up. They'll be distributed through the schools now. So yes, everyone who went through the process and that went through the screening process and met the criteria, they have a device or will have a device.
Yeah, the reason for asking the question is, close to 150 people are on the line right now, and we all have friends in the community. Similar to Sam and Purnima, what they did, is there a need for us to reach out and get some more funds available for more Chromebooks or iPads in the near future? I mean, the long term, yes, you want to equip every student with it, but right now, is there a need for it?
As we sit here today, we could always use technology, but we have enough to support through our screening process, enough to support who would need it. Like I said, when we get the next phase of Chromebooks in, then we can take a look at one of the factors. If you have an iPad, we wouldn't issue a Chromebook. The next step is to replace those iPads with Chromebooks as a preferred learning device. So as soon as we get another delivery, whenever they come in, we can then exchange. Anybody who had an iPad, we can reach back out to them and say, we can provide you with a Chromebook now. So we have enough to provide. If somebody doesn't have a computer at all, we have enough to provide those.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're ready to move on to closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6, to 10:4-21 to discuss the following subject: MTA negotiations. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Let me just add that this, because it's MTA negotiations, we will not be able to answer any questions or make comments after closed session. I don't want to see the public waiting around to ask questions about this because it can't be answered. We can't talk about it. All right. Do I have a motion, a second for this?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Kalpanovich, Mr. Mayo?
Mr. Rybick, this is
Yes.
Michelle Arminio.
Yes.
Could you also inform the public that it is likely that we will not have any action taken? Is that true?
That's what
No, you didn't say that there would probably be no action either.
Yes.
Right. You said that we couldn't discuss anything, but you didn't say anything about,
Oh,
so
well,
to give them a little comfort that there probably will not be
There
any
will be
action
no
taken.
action. Thank you, Michelle. I'm sorry. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, any question? All right, then the motion passes. We're going into session. I think it will take 10, 15 minutes at the most. So now we can log out. We have a special.
So Elliot, do we leave this active or do we get out of this
I just
meeting?
said, Andy, we'll close out of this and then you have another one to open a Zoom for the closed session.
No, but do we come back to this again?
Yeah, you come back to this, right.
Later.
You come back to this.
Okay.
Session. Obviously, as I said before, we can't disclose anything that happened in the closed session. Our next scheduled board meeting is September 16th. I need a motion to end our meeting, close the meeting.
So moved, Andy.
Andy moved to have a second. Paul, second.
You got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Just sure.